put on. All right, we're just gonna go for it because Kevin's got the shades on, and immediately I'm thinking shades, the beard, the vibe, the Southern. I immediately think of one of my favorite bass players and singers, Dusty Hill. Rest in peace.
R.I.P.
Have I ever told you my Dusty Hill story that I heard from Reverend Billy?
No.
The one time I've met Billy Gibbons. It's the best fucking day ever.
Yeah.
So that day, I sold a 1957 Les Paul Goldtop to one of my customers. Great guy. We were talking earlier about like, well, what you got going on this month and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, I got an old hot rod that, you familiar with the Guernsey auction? I'm going to put an old hot rod on there. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like I was pretending I knew what the Guernsey auction was at the time. And so it's one of those details that sticks with you. And then no shit, an hour later, before the store is even officially open, Reverend Billy walks in. And I could see him walk up because I'm downstairs and I could see in the windows. I'm like, oh my God, that's Billy Gibbons. And of course, naturally, I'm looking for, Dusty Hill, who didn't come. But he ends up like going, to the main guitar room floor. And the general manager comes out downstairs like this, and I'm like, show him the Goldtop. It's in the repair shop right now. They're setting it up to be shipped out. He's like, are you sure your customers? I'm like, dude, come on. Like, to know that the last person to touch your guitar before you did is Billy Gibbons, of course. Like, That's amazing. He already bought it, And so he takes it up there. They texted me a photo of Billy playing it, and so I texted it to the customer. The customer calls me right away. He's like, oh, I can't believe it. He's there right now. I was like, he just got done playing it. That's amazing. Oh my God, what luck that is, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, well, I'll talk to you later. I'll let you know when it ships out. So Billy eventually makes his way downstairs. Comes downstairs, and he's just amazing. Nicest guy ever. Shades are still on. He's got the hat. And he's so generous with his time. And everybody's able to talk to him. And I was like, well, welcome to my home. This is the bass shop, And I gotta say, I've always wanted to meet you, and of course, I've always wanted to meet Dusty Hill. He's one of my favorite bass players. And he's like, man, Dusty is something special, isn't he? And he tells me the story, and I hope I'm getting it right. About they did a show, like they're putting out a record. I think it was like something like Live in Brazil, like we're live in Rio or something like that. I'm not even sure it got released, but leading up to it being released, they noticed there was a problem with the bass signal. It wasn't a mistake on his part, but it was like a problem enough in a big enough song where it's like, we got to fix this. So they got all these session players coming in trying to play this spot. It just didn't sound right. At the time, Dusty was in Germany on vacation with his family or something. And so finally the producer's like, look, we're on a deadline. We got to get, if it doesn't sound right, we either have to cut the song or we have to get Dusty in the studio here to cut it. So they call him up, and Dusty's like, yep, I'll be on the next flight out. Comes down within 24 hours, walks right into the studio. They hit record, he picks up the bass, nails it in one take. We're good? Leaves. Like that, and everyone's like, there it is, there's the touch. Like, he just had it. So anyway, later after, all of this stuff, and I'm talking to the guy, I'm talking to Billy about the guy who bought the Goldtop. And I was like, yeah, you're a big fan of hot rods. He's like, oh yeah, I love hot rods. I was like, yeah, the guy who bought that 57 Goldtop, he literally was just telling me that he was selling a 39 hot rod on the Guernsey auction. And he fucking takes his glasses off and he goes, do you know if it's a two-seater? And I was like, I think so. And he goes, do you think we can get him on the phone? And I'm like, I'm sure we can. I'm texting the guy, like, answer your fucking phone. And then he picks up the phone. I put him on speaker, and immediately Billy's like, that's a hell of a guitar you got there, son. And from what I understand, like, I think they may have crossed paths. He might have bought it. I have no idea. But it was so cool. Like, I mean, like, it was like the best way to meet the guy.
When you think ZZ Top, the image first image is the music video and the hot rods and the legs and the whole thing, right? Like,
just unprecedented cool. Those dudes.
Right?
So
like
for you
iconic
to
tones
compared to that.
We know I played with Billy at Christmas.
Shut the hell up. When?
Yeah, December. So
I
casually,
didn't even put I saw the images of him, but I didn't put two and two together. That was your thing.
That was at Christmas Jam 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, with Warren's event in Nashville.
Yeah.
And for years I never got a chance to go to one, but it's been going on forever, and I've always heard it's like this really cool, spontaneous, thing where Warren gets all these different musicians and
Yeah.
all these different bands. And it's very, it's like Warren is like the master of keeping things very organized but loose, So he just casually dropped like, yeah, Billy, we're going to do a ZZ Top with Billy. And I was like, holy.
Billy who?
Yeah, and that was, and Joe Russo was playing drums on it. And, it's the first time me and Joe really got to play together. And Joe was just, he was like, man, you really know a lot about ZZ Top. I was like, dude, I was raised on this shit.
Right.
They're without a doubt probably my favorite trio, probably.
Easily.
So, like, when Warren's like, oh, we're going to play ZZ Top, are you then, like, that night sitting in your room, like, fucking chopping up I'm sure you know the songs, but, like, there's got to be another level of, like, do I really fucking know these songs the way I think I do?
That's the whole gig. That's been the whole gig. Luckily, I was real excited about it, too, because when Warren set the list that him and Billy agreed upon, it was, like, the ones I've wanted to play with.
Well, they've got a lot of hits, obviously.
Yeah.
Right?
Which two?
We got to do Jesus Left Chicago. Mm-hmm. We got to do Blue Jean Blues. All this really cool stuff. Now, there's a funny story about this, though. So, we're running around like crazy because, that was the year that, Slash was on the gig. And
I was going to ask, is that the Slash thing?
So we're all just having, we have rehearsals at Soundcheck.
Yeah.
But we couldn't rehearse. We didn't rehearse with Billy's tunes on that stuff. So Billy's like, "Oh, we'll just have a rehearsal, beforehand." So
Chuck Berry, I just show up and you guys better know your shit.
So we run to this rehearsal room, and Warren's having a guitar, and Billy's we're running stuff through. Billy's like, "Oh, that's great, that's great." So I'm like so excited. Like we all come out, when I first met Billy in the hotel. We're going to stay at the hotel. We kind of looked at each other. He's kind of like, probably like, whoa, he's one of my kind. Yeah. And then we get on stage. Yeah, his cousin, some distant relative. So we're doing, what song was it? Waiting for the Bus.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so, all right. So
waiting for the bus. Waiting for the bus, waiting on the bus.
Waiting for the bus.
Waiting for the bus.
So we get up there, we're playing it, and, the bridge is ZZ Top tunes are, you can't overlook them. They're not just like basic blueses.
Right. You think that, this is simple, but then once you start digging in, you go, oh, wait.
It's got some shit.
Right.
And an old thing about, whenever I'm doing the Dusty show, I want to make sure I do what he's doing, but do my own thing, using him as the bass, And we're up on stage, and the crowd's going crazy. We go to the solo section. On the solo section, it goes down a whole step.
Yeah, they like to modulate.
Right. Eric, Warren's guitar tech, actually gave Warren a drop D. So we go down to the solo section, and Warren and Billy are looking at me, and I'm going, See? And Warren was like, but again, as bass players, we always get blamed for everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if it sounds wrong, it's got to be the bass player.
The bass player. Yeah, it was crazy. I got some good time with him.
Did you spin your bass?
I wanted to.
Well, what bass were you playing?
So I have a good friend of mine that I met through Warren, and he sent me this weird Parts Tele bass in the mail maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That was basically like a Sting Tele neck and a weird Tele body, but it had an original 50s single coil in it.
Okay, right.
So I played that.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the sound.
Right,
That's the
that's
Dusty Hill sound right there. Part of it, other than his hands and sensibility. He had little bitty hands, too.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. God, that's awesome, man. You've had a lot of gigs, obviously well deserved, but over the past 2 2 years now that I've just been like, there's nobody else who should be in that position other than Kevin.
Well, like,
And,
the
like,
Slash was
admittedly,
one
the
of them
Jeff-
for me, where I was watching that live because they streamed it on YouTube Live. I was like, that motherfucker,
Yeah,
that motherfucker.
that was pretty wild. But you know, and Slash is an amazing. But I mean, Billy was like,
Right.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's so awesome. So how long have you been with Gov't Mule at this point?
God, I mean, it's been 2 years now, I think.
What was the audition process like? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it was basically their old bass player Jorgen a few years ago got COVID,
Yeah.
and I was on the road at the time with another person, and Dave Schools called me and said, "Hey, man, Jorgen's got COVID." They hit me up, but I told Warren he's got to hire the Viking, and I've met Warren over the years through passing, through the Bruce scene, and me and Warren were both on stage when Bruce Hampton passed away
Yeah.
at the Fox Theater. But I didn't know Warren that well. We just, hey, what's up?
Always crossing
Yeah.
paths. Yeah.
So, basically they were like, all right, can you be here in 2 days? And I had a bunch of work, and this is some good advice out there about stuff. The work I had on the books was all subbable work. Now, mind you, it pissed a few people off, because it was the week of.
Right.
But the thing is that like a corporate gig I had with the guy I was on tour with, and then I had basically I was playing a trip to Atlanta because I had gigs in Atlanta that week.
Mm-hmm.
So I was gonna go to Atlanta, do my jam, do my Wednesday thing, then play these gigs down there. And I told Dave, I was like, yeah, I'll be there. So I had to basically cram 35 songs in 2 days and
Right.
show up this rehearsal. But looking back, it was like, sometimes it's you kind of, the whole idea about not burning bridges, but you don't want to burn bridges, but you have to look out. Like, if
Right.
you're friends with somebody, and you're playing a corporate gig, and you heard, hey man, I just got called to go on, this the last minute theme to go on the road with Sting or something.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit, dude! Awesome. That's great. I'll find
Well,
somebody else.
yeah.
And that's the big thing. And if you're around people that don't look that way, it's on them. It's like,
Yeah, because that's like the first thing I would think is like you go like, well, first it would be like I can't make the gig. You'd be like, what the fuck? It's in 2 days or next week or whatever. I gotta go sit in with Warren Haynes,
Yeah.
and Gov't Mule. But all right, I get it. What can we do? Help, give me some names or
Yeah.
help me whatever.
Yeah.
I was in a band, a nobody band, and our singer had to quit the band because she got a role on Broadway for The Lion King.
Right.
Like, and she was like, guys, I got to move to New York. And I was like, please
Yeah.
go to
How can I
fucking
help you get there?
Broadway. Like, we were a band for about a year. We were working hard or whatever. But then it's like, I can't tell you not to go sing on Broadway. It's
Right.
like, you got to do it. So you got to be, like you said, hopefully the people around you were like, fucking bro, call me if they need a key player or something, right?
Well, yeah. It's also like you have to pick your battles with it too. It's like obviously there's levels of. Now, mind you, if it wasn't a gig like Mule, I probably would have done my normal thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If it was like if it was like a pop gig, I'd probably been like, that's not worth not doing this.
Right. Potentially burning a
Yeah, some
bridge
things
or
are
whatever.
special to you anyway.
Yeah.
We learned something from Chuck Webb. Chuck, Chuck Webb. He gave us some really sage advice as well with regard to finding the right sub. Like basically having a Rolodex of local people, a handful of people, maybe they're not local, but just they're able to travel that they can handle the music. There's plenty of people who can handle the music. It's also the right professionalism because that person who you recommend is ultimately going to be a reflection on you.
Way more than you ever could dream of.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, what sort of experiences have you had with that? Because you've been in addition to having like your like the solo, like the jams that you've hosted, and a lot of the projects that you've been working on, you do like I look at you as like just one of the most solid session players, and I don't mean to pigeonhole you.
That's fine.
But you've got a lot of experience as a session
Yeah.
player. Like, what sort of experience do you have with finding the right sub? Like,
Yeah,
have
what are
ever
you
gotten-
looking for in a sub
What are you
besides
looking for in a
chops?
sub?
Even you know.
I mean, the sub thing is the most important, and what you have to understand about that is that when you're looking at subs, you're not looking at people that are under you.
Right.
That's the big thing.
Right.
That's a problem with when I see some people talk about it. It's like,
I got this gig.
but this is my sub. No, the sub is as important as you are to the situation.
Yeah.
And my sub, and I've subbed for him too, is this guy.
It's me. Cat's out of the bag. I'm the sub now. I just fucked you big time.
my new sub. No, is this dude named Evan Sarver.
Who?
Evan Sarver,
I know that name.
incredible bass player
He's
down
a
in
New York
Atlanta.
guy?
Huh?
Is he a New York guy?
No, Atlanta.
He's in a hot. Oh shit.
And we met, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I taught. Sarver is an incredible bass player, incredible dude. We talk nonstop, and I know for a fact that Sarver will show up, kill the music, be the best hang ever.
Right.
It's because I mean honestly, the how I got into New York was something for LaFay.
Yeah.
Tim, Tim at the time could have subbed anybody, and he was like, you know what, this is the guy.
Yeah.
So that's how I got to New York, because I wasn't living in New York.
Right.
I was doing the gigs with Krantz and McCaslin and all the stuff that led out of that was from basically Tim saying, you should hire this guy. And that's the way it works.
Right. No, I mean, if you're known as a guy like, either a session player or a live touring player, like you can only be in one place at one time, right? So like you're now committed to Warren and
Sure.
doing 3-week stretches or 6-week runs or whatever. You're not available to do what I imagine you probably get calls somewhat regularly to do a thing, and like you're not going to tell Warren you can't make it,
No.
right? So
No.
like you got to have a buddy or two that can hang, like you said. Chops is one thing, and I've said it many times on this podcast that being in a band and a lot of times you probably hang like the last 6 weeks or however many long this run is, like you're hanging out with these guys more than you're hanging out with family, more than you're hanging out with your wife.
Oh
more
yeah,
than
my bass tech Brett is my male husband.
Right.
I mean, it's like I see him hours.
You've
upon
seen
day.
more of his naked body than you have your
Well,
wife.
not naked body, luckily.
Right. In his underwear.
But I do. Well, I'm somebody. I do wear lawn johns in the bus, like red button lawn johns to the flap.
Hell yeah.
Anyway,
But my point is that like having the ability to play is really 20% of it.
well, yeah, because here's the thing too. Is like, for instance, like if let's say, I was like, okay, I gotta get a sub for Mule, I will call him
Right.
because that's.
Whoa, hey.
I'm gonna.
No, but I'm saying-
I'm gonna fuck your life up. But thank you.
No, but I'm saying, because it's like, again, like the chops thing is like, if I, when I was younger, when you're kind of in a mindset of just wanting, you just want everything. He's like, I want to
Right.
play this.
Yeah.
Eventually, you get to the point where you're like, the reason why I'm not getting called for this is because that's just not my thing.
Right. Right.
It's okay to accept that, and I think some people have problems with that weird kind of ego part of it, because everybody's got it, and the voice is always going to be there. So how you treat it is what's important.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you're online consistently looking at stuff, going, that should be me,
Right.
then what do you?
Yeah. Why not just be happy for the person who's doing this? Because more often than not, in our positions, we know who that person is,
Right.
right? And those like it's natural to have a bit of envy. With
Of
certain
course,
things.
you're a
But
human.
like once,
Well, it'll make you grind harder too.
Yes.
You see these guys
when
who,
you grind, you also grind yourself out.
Sure.
You wear yourself down.
Sure.
Because you're trying. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? What's the mission here?
Right.
Like, if you're doing original music, if that's like your whole thing, and you're just like constantly comparing yourself to other people, like you're never going to be able to really cross into that thing. You're never going to be satisfied. Once you abandon that sense of ego, and this is true to basically everything in life, going to get a little Buddhist on you, that once you abandon that sense of ego and you just accept the thing for what it is. This is my musical outlet. This is my release. This is my softball on Tuesday nights. I'm hanging out with some of my best friends every Tuesday to do this one thing and build and grow this thing together. Once you do that, usually people are like, hey, there's a party going on over here. I want to be part of that. And then like everything starts to happen. Like a prime example, like, there's so many bands who like, they put the fun aspect to the front and the business behind. And those bands like were able to tour and be successful. Like bigger jam bands such as like Fish, for instance. They would be a prime example of this. But they talked about this a few times. I know they've like mentioned it in like Bittersweet Motel or something like that. Where it's like we were friends first. We're always just thinking about improving the sound and having fun on stage and doing goofy stuff as friends. People just naturally are gravitating towards that. So it takes removing the ego first.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, and kind of like tying it back together with the, with like being a session player and having that like those gigs and those calls and stuff, have you noticed has the frequency of offers or requests coming your way, has that like started to fade away because of how prominent you become with Gov't Mule? Or that sort of a higher profile gig?
It's interesting. I think it's like a weird. I think a lot of it has to do with scenes and age.
Yeah.
Because I'm 40 now, and that means most of my close friends are around mid-30s and older.
Yeah.
And it's like when you're in your 20s, you can go out every night. You want to be in the scene. You want to go to all the jams. You want to go see everything. And when you get older, it's kind of like, it's I think
pick and choose.
Pick and choose, and that means that there's certain opportunities because you're not always visible that you won't get, and that's fine. It's
visible meaning like you're not physically at.
Yeah, because that has a lot to do with getting work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really like
who you know, and
also,
hey,
like,
I need a gig. And
even in my circumstance, sometimes I'll just somebody it's killing that I love playing with. I haven't talked to him in 3 months.
Right.
I'm not going to think about him for something.
It's a front of mind.
But then if I see him, oh shit, dude, I got a gig.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what is it? It's just kind of how it.
But with that
works,
said, I feel like I always see you like. There's another fucking Kevin Scott jam happening in fucking Brooklyn or the Bronx or what. Like, as much as you're like, I think you could easily be like, well, I'm Gov't Mule's bass player, and when my downtime is
That's
my
never
downtime.
Gonna stop.
It's like, no, I'm still getting fucking assassins on stage with me, and we're gonna rip.
Yeah, I don't have any kind of desire to like. To me, it's the gig. This gig, luckily, is and Warren is again more praise for Warren Haynes is that you'll see the Warren Haynes band tonight. Is that his goal still, which I am absolutely so inspired by, at his age of doing this for so fucking long, through all the shit he's been through and all the different hats he's worn,
Right.
he still gets excited about the unknown and when people are going for shit.
Yeah.
And that's all, again, like it goes back to like, there's been plenty, because the thing about everybody's career is that there's momentum at peaks and it goes. It's just this. It doesn't matter if you have, this gig could end tomorrow.
Sure.
And that's another kind of realization you have to come where you can't really have an ego about a gig.
Right.
Is that at the end of the day, it's like I'm being myself, or this guy is hiring me and he trusts me to do that. Like I trust him on his end of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I have my own projects that I invest my time in. And,
Sure.
Luckily with Warren, his camp, they're very supportive of all of it. Again, it's like you have to pick your battles thing. Because a lot of times, if you take a pop gig, for instance, or something,
Yeah.
where the management is literally just a bunch of people in a room that have no idea about music,
Right.
or like, well, this is what it is, whatever. You can't do that, or this and that.
No.
Which I don't believe in that.
No.
Because, at the end of the day, it's funny, you go through all, for me, it was like I made a realization from years of side manning and start my projects and the failure and then do all this stuff. Only thing that matters is being in a room full of your best friends playing music.
Right.
At the end of the fucking day, that's it.
Yeah.
And all the other bullshit aside of like the status of a gig or this and that, it's all trying to be that. So one thing I can't, stand is when people are willing to compromise essentially their happiness just to be a full-time musician.
Right.
When in reality, it's like if you work a 9 to 5 but play with your best friends, record, write music, play, there's no difference because you're happy.
Dude,
Right.
it's like buying boats, or like getting into boat culture, softball leagues, whatever your hobby is. If you treat it like the thing that you work towards, like the thing that you look forward to on your own personal time, it makes it that much sweeter. But if it's the thing that's responsible for like paying your bills, like sometimes that could be like a very fulfilling lifestyle if you're lucky enough. Right? There's some people who are lucky enough to be in that position, but most people aren't.
Yeah.
And with that ends up coming resentment towards others, like we just talked about, right?
Well, it's also, let's be honest here, a lot of people that are in the scene are not really being honest about, the nepotism, how much money they have to start with.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
I've seen.
But to push
plenty of
back
that.
on that, it's not their fault.
No, but here's the thing. It's nobody's fault. And I used to have a chip on my shoulder coming from where I come from. And,
Right.
Yeah.
Because, it's like, how I'm even sit with you guys right now doesn't make any goddamn sense right
Bro, I'm from the trailer park.
You know what I'm
saying? My relatives still live in the trailer
But
park.
that's what I'm saying. It's
Right.
like for where we come from, we're sitting here doing this together. It's,
Lower middle class. Dad was a cop. Mom worked in the medical admin side of things. I get it.
you get it,
I'm the rich
Listen,
one among the three.
My
of
mom's
us.
on her
Like,
third strike, bro.
Right.
I'm not lying. My mom is a convicted felon twice over.
Yeah.
She gets another strike, she's going to jail for a long time.
Shit just got
Nothing
real.
serious, not like a drug addiction,
Sure.
trying to feed a drug addiction, whatever. And my mom is in a great place now. If she's watching, I love you. You're my mom. But like, this is a reality as well.
Sure.
Like, I get it, man.
But my point is I used to have a chip on my shoulder. Now I
Right.
don't because it's again, people, the situation they come from, it's their situation.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, art, what their art is what it is.
Yeah.
If it's great or it's not. But my problem though is that when people see certain people doing stuff and they go, man, how are they doing that? To me, because I don't come from that side of it, I'll just straight up tell you how I did.
Right.
But to me, it's weird that certain people leave out that aspect, which is a very predominantly part of who they are, like
Sure.
yours is, and my every human being. So why leave that out? Just say it. It doesn't matter. You're a badass. You can write
own
cool
it.
Shit.
You should
Own
own
it.
it, right.
So then, when people who are from there, like me, who are not from the means of that, start getting frustrated, going, "Well, how the fuck am I still working at Starbucks and I see this person
Buying their way in.
and that's fine. No one cares as long as it's like if you're
Yeah, we all take a different path.
We all
Is
take a
that
different
path
path.
any more or less valid than, say, someone who just had, wasn't necessarily from like nepotism, big means place, and wasn't from the gutter, and they're just in the middle of the road,
Right.
where just had really supportive parents who
Yeah.
were middle class or whatever, just encourage them.
Does that diminish their art?
No, that's the whole point. Like, is that, or someone who took the college route, or someone who, whatever, the grandmother died and left them $100,000 or something like
Right.
that. Is that any more or less valid?
That's the point. I think that's the point I'm making is that everybody's journey, essentially, where they end up is their own path.
Sure.
But I think that it's just weird to me when people who aren't from a rags to riches will claim it or say certain things.
Sure.
And that's just kind of creepy.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you didn't have to go through it. And then it's also how society frowns upon people that might have had a golden spoon is a little fucked up too, because it's like they're scared to say it.
Right.
Yeah, there's like an embarrassment there. Like, you see that and you automatically assume that they were able to buy their way in.
Right.
Like, you don't know the full story.
No.
They might have said, like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go and bet on myself. Their parents could have cut them off for all we
Right.
know. Or like, like
That was a lot.
It really comes down to like we've all been around the block enough to know most of the time pretty instantly if you're dealing with a persona or if you're
Right.
dealing with authenticity.
That's heavy.
That
Like my tits, ZZ Top heavy.
That's heavy.
Well, I mean, it's like the art still has to speak for itself. So, like a person that comes to mind right now is like Willow Smith, who is, really kicking ass right now, and clearly comes from a very privileged lifestyle. But if you look at her art, it still fucking stands on its own. It's fucking does what it does. She's got killer musicians on stage with her, and it's not just this like.
See, that's a testament right there to if we remove all of the bullshit that we have to deal with in society and are able to just tap into the creative space,
Right.
what we're allowed to come out with. It could be really beautiful, it could be inspiring, it could be authentic. Then you see people who are cosplaying their way through life because they have the means, and that sucks. It's just like, tap into something real. You have the resources to do it. This is the thing that most of us dream about, right? Like we don't, we have bills to pay, we have kids, we have X, Y, and Z obligations. But if we remove all of those things and we're just able to just live and talk about life, like how awesome would things be?
Well,
we're getting close to the universal basic income conversation, but we'll
the what?
The universal basic income conversation, but we'll table that.
Well,
Table that for tonight.
I think the pushback or the problem that maybe some of those artists struggle with, who maybe come from a place of privilege, is that most often, the person who had to struggle, they use that in their art, right? So they needed. Their art is a representation of that struggle, of that grind, of the comedian who's been doing it a road dog comedian who's been playing in front of 8 people at midnight every fucking night forever. Like, it's part of what they've become after they succeed. And when you've come from a place of privilege, it can be hard to like write a song about how life sucks or how hard it is to do
write
a thing.
a song about having a BMW.
Well, so that's why you get, the Keshas of the world who talk about.
I love Kesha.
I'm not hating on her, but that's what I'm saying. Is like, but even like ZZ Top writes a lot about fucking cars and women and good times, right?
Yeah.
So like, I think you could still write about those things, but and I think you're right that like, all right, just lean into the thing that you know. In the same way that like comedians go like, you need to write and tell stories about what relates to you, know, and not pretend or try to write about stuff that doesn't relate to you or doesn't make, that you can't relate to. So like I thought about, every musician wants to be a comedian, right? So
Absolutely.
I've thought about like, what would I write about? Well, my experiences are being a musician, a cancer survivor, diabetic, like those things are
Mom's
things.
coming up on her 3rd strike.
Mom, sorry, Mom, I ain't got no more bail money. Sorry, don't go back to jail. Those kinds of things are the things that I feel like I would need to lean into, as opposed to, the Black experience or the woman's experience or whatever, the
things we'll never understand.
Things that I can't relate. Yeah, that I can't. You're right. That I wouldn't fully be able to understand.
Yeah, I mean, as a producer. I've done a few records where the first thing I'll say to him is like, man, write about what you know.
Right.
Like writing about a trip that's like writing about a trip going to Peru. Have you been to Peru? No. Okay. That's fine, but like.
All right, now the story is about what you think it's like going to Peru.
But don't write a song about your trip to Peru. You've never been there.
Right.
Write a song about what you think it might be or something.
Right.
It's
what
like,
that story is.
And again,
right?
it's all subjective at the end of the day. But the authentic people who are authentic is what you're drawn to.
Right.
And I think that's one of the big, the big, points we're making right now is that your personality is your experience at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And mind you, like I'm only because I come from the road dog, and I'm gonna tell people from my experience, you need to go eat shit for 10 years and figure it out. Now, people don't have to do that.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Well, and that's the road you know.
That's the road I know.
Right. So you can navigate that.
Right.
Now, had you come from a bunch of money, maybe you wouldn't end up where you're at right
Who
now,
knows?
right? Because that like you don't know that road and what that would have
No.
done and how that
Okay.
would have changed things. And
So we as a society, particularly in the U.S., have an unhealthy obsession with the ultra wealthy.
Sure.
And like how we put them on a pedestal, like why they belong there and stuff like that. The other side of that is that we have an unhealthy obsession that assumes that those people who have don't deserve
Right.
to have the nice things, or they don't deserve to be as creative or have as much success as they do, because they haven't gone through the same kinds of struggles as we do. But for every one of those situations, for every person who has done terrible things in the world, there are plenty of people who have built themselves up or have come from the means and have had like a really amazing lifestyle and means of wealth, but still struggle deeply and daily to the point of being like suicidal. Robin Williams is somebody who comes to mind. I'm not saying that he grew up with wealth or anything like that, but he, at the height of his career, he was wealthier than ever, but still for decades was deeply struggling. And of course, a lot of that struggle kind of probably goes way back into like his childhood and stuff like that. But it's just interesting, like the people, like it really comes to light, like money is not going to buy happiness. Money's not going to buy creativity. It might like give you a leg up on the success of things,
Right.
but like even those people who are successful, they might not actually be enjoying it if it was handed to them, because they didn't really have to earn it,
Well,
or they
also,
didn't like
too-
have to invest the creativity.
Well, also too is that a lot of the times, most times than not, people who really can buy in, it doesn't last that long.
Yeah.
Right.
It kind of disappears after a while.
Well, because they probably find that what they're looking for isn't.
Right.
They didn't find what they're looking for, right?
Yeah, and that's the whole Colonel Bruce thing. It's like the cult of Bruce. I want to write a book called The Cult of Bruce Hampton, because it was a cult. It was. Kara, my wife, was starting to listen to these cult podcasts, and we're listening to them. And I remember it hit me. I went, you know what? I was in a fucking cult.
Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, because the thing about the Colonel, you hear stories, and it was, he was definitely an alien. He was either a time traveler or an alien. This guy could read you in 3 seconds and
Predict your whole life's path.
it's insane. He
I've heard this.
the first, how I even got in his orbit is mystical. Grew up in this small town Alabama, buying records at a flea market, and I was going through my kind of like, because I got into the more freer improv music before the actual vocabulary of jazz. So I was listening to like Sunship Coltrane before I heard Blue Train and shit.
Yeah.
So I was getting into this really kind of aggressive improvised based, 60s, 70s, era of that. And this guy at the flea market who we call Stash, I still don't know his name to this day. I was 14 or 15 years old.
He's got the stash.
He had a mustache.
Oh, the mustache. I thought it was stash
He was
of
like 4
records. or
feet
something.
tall. And he was like, I have every vinyl in a warehouse. Give me a list and I'll find it. So I went back the next week, gave him my list. I had Zappa and Lonnie Liston Smith and Albert Eiler and all that kind of stuff. So he didn't have all of it, but I got my Zappa and I got he gave me like Tangerine Dream and
Yeah.
Bo Hansen. You know Bo Hansen?
No.
We'll talk about that.
You know the Hanson brothers?
Hey, no, Bo Hansen. Yeah.
The
older
father
uncle.
of the
The
Hanson.
psychedelic uncle, the Hanson brothers. So he throws in this record because, man, I think you might like this. And it was this, on the cover, it had this dude in a Beatles jacket holding a guitar and sunglasses. And next to him was this guy that had these old man glasses with like a powdered wig and like a suit jacket. And it said, Col Bruce Hampton in the late Bronze Age. And I went, what the fuck is this? I take it home. Blew me away. It was like basically Captain Beefheart meets Zappa meets performance art, but Southern.
With what?
Southern. Like a Southern.
But Southern. Oh, yeah.
Southern voices,
Yeah.
And it blew me away. And I was like, who the fuck is this guy? And then, my family has, they're all musicians. And I realized that my Uncle Jay was a sax player, worked with Bruce at one time. Because he kind of talked about him. So I was like, huh, Atlanta, Georgia. I didn't know if anything was happening in Atlanta. Because, when you're younger, you think New York, L.A., or Nashville. That's the
Right.
only scenes there are. And, at the time in my life, I was, like most teenagers in the music, where you're extremely opinionated and I hated jam bands. I was a metalhead. I was in the bebop. I was in all that. And I used to have a sticker in my car that said, Jerry's dead, Fish sucks, get a job. The irony.
Yeah.
About,
It's so funny. Our lives did this. Yours and mine. I was on the jam band side of the world and got into metal, and now we're just sort of like riding the wave in the middle.
Right, we were like opposites that
Yeah.
came with the same thing. So, and the bar I used to play at on the regular was called Moon Times Bar and Grill, named after the Widespread Panic song.
Yeah.
So this place had like murals in there of Jerry, and they thought I was 30 and I was 15. So I was a regular at this fucking bar drinking, playing twice a week.
So this is Atlanta.
This is Dothan.
I'm sorry.
Alabama.
Okay, but in the 90s.
No, this is 2000s.
Early
That was
2000s.
2000, 2001.
Yeah, okay.
And,
so like right around like
So you're like
where shit's
16,
starting to peak for
17.
Widespread Panic.
Yeah.
Like those bands are like really like they've already been established at that point, but like they're cemented at this point.
I had no idea that was happening because I was
Yeah.
15 years old.
Fucking Napster, everybody's sharing the live
absolutely.
shows, and like that's where they're really popping off on the MySpace and.
There wasn't even MySpace yet. That was still Atlanta. AOL Instant Messenger.
Right.
AIM, baby.
ASL.
So I'm playing, and and to this day, I give a lot of credit to this guy named Sammy Norris. And he was a bartender. And he thought I was a fucking asshole because I just talked shit about jam bands. But I played a jam band bar, playing jam music essentially.
Right.
And he went, man, go through these CDs and pick out some stuff and stop being an asshole. So he had just these crazy CDRs with so much stuff. And I went through them and I saw, okay, this says Stockholm Syndrome. I don't know what that is. That was essentially Dave School's side project. And then I got, what else was in that? I think it was like a Live Panic bootleg. And then I saw the CD that was yellow or kind of gold, and I got the mustache on it going like this, and I got that. Just 2 weeks after I got the late Bronze Age, it was ARU with Colonel Bruce.
Aquarium Rescue Unit, for those who don't know.
Which was, again, so now Bruce is totally
O'Teal?
with fucking Teal Burbridge and Jimmy Herring and Matt Mundy and Count Butu and Jeff Sipe. And then I was like, well, who the hell is this? It was the same guy with different people. So then at that moment in my life, I said, I have to work with him.
Yeah.
And then I started researching in this whole mystic side of Bruce and all this crazy stuff. And then I was still living in Dothan, and I was in and out. I graduated high school, working at T-shirt printing place, still playing around locally. And my parents were like, you gotta go to school, get a gig. You don't want to be in Dothan anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. So this random band from Atlanta called me to go tour with them, start to play with them. And I knew about the Brandy House in Atlanta at the time, because that's where Bruce had his regulars. And I got a gig every Monday there. Now, in my mind, as a teenager, I thought, oh, well, Colonel Bruce lives there. I'm going to meet him. And that had happened for years. But that's how I even got discovered in the Bruce's realm. And then eventually I ended up playing with him for about 4 years. And then talked to him every day forever. But the cult comes from the fact that, we all still to this day follow a lot of the principles that he taught us. And there's a lot of amazing, loving things, but also very abusive things we had to go through to kind of figure out what all this is.
What can you expand on? What are some of those things that he taught you guys, or rules to follow, or?
Well, the ego death is his biggest thing.
Yeah.
The first moment I was in the van with him, he looks at me, and I must have been 25. And, he goes, why are you doing this to yourself, Scott? I went, well, no one's ever asked me that. He goes, why are you doing this to yourself? There's no guaranteed money. It doesn't matter how good you are. You don't get credit. It's not about that. It's almost impossible to keep relationships. It's unhealthy. He lists all this shit that no one has ever told me about how unfair this business is.
Yeah.
And I remember him staring at him. I was like, it like hit me like a ton of bricks to be someone being that brutally honest. You know, because no one really talks that way. Everybody wants to really talk about the.
It's fun.
It's fun, and
Right.
we just talk about playing with your friends. It's great, but like in the business side, it's like, why on earth would you do this to yourself?
Yeah.
And I looked at him. I said something extent of like, well, I have to. It's the only thing I know how to do. And that was kind of like, okay, because he was basically like saying, like, man, if you're in this to party, if you're in this to get laid, if you're in this for any other reasons, you're not going to last long.
Yeah.
That was, you know, some positive shit, and also just kind of like the weird little mental mazes he'd put you through about music.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because, you know, he got me back into the blues, which I overlooked since my dad.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't listen or care about that stuff since I was like maybe 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, 10 years later or whatever, Bruce was like, no, that's the real shit. You don't know how to play that. And I was going, you kidding me?
It's 12-bar
It's
blues.
a 1-4-5. And then him challenging me at the time, because in my mind, when I was in that era, you know, I thought it was pretty hot shit. You know, I was doing sessions and I was young and, you know, all this stuff. And then because of Bruce, I heard how advanced Willie Dixon was. Yeah. And how that was something I'll never be able to achieve. And it was like, well, what do you mean? It's a 1-4-5. Well, the way he's playing it is not possible.
Right.
So the humbling aspect of the music was the beautiful thing about Bruce. And the comedy and, you know,
Keep going.
the quotes. You know, one of the biggest quotes I live by from him was, you know, take what you do seriously, not yourself. I'm going to get that tattooed. It's so true, because no one wants to be in a room with anybody that's like, well, I'm a very successful musician, or I'm a high-end doctor. It's like, it's true. Get over it. You know, what I do is life or death, but I don't take myself in that same regard.
Yeah. I mean, you clearly learned a lot in that time that you were with him and pursuing him.
Oh my God,
You know? It was like he was leaving you little cosmic, like breadcrumbs made of stardust and love and life.
But
and then you found him.
But then the negative part is like the kind of the abusive psychology of what that is. You know, I mean, like I tell people, like, there are success stories out of Bruce's camp, but I mean, hundreds of people played with him that some people quit music because of it. You know, especially after ARU, because, you know, people thought, oh, if I get the Bruce gig, I'm going to get famous.
Yeah.
Some people. In reality, it was like, there wasn't a lot of money. I mean, Bruce somehow knew the exact number he could pay me for me to survive, you know, to the very cent. But then, you know, all the amazing cosmic stuff that would happen with, like, you know, he would, you know, the birthday shit was real. The relationship I developed, you know, with Dwayne Trucks, you know, we were already playing a lot together, but when we were on the road with Bruce, it would solidify our forever brotherhood as a rhythm section and best friends.
Right.
But, you know, the honeymoon period was the craziest part, because Bruce would do this thing where he would build you up, where you would think like, oh, right, you know, like,
I'm secure in my position.
oh, I'm just secure. You know, he would build you up like you're the hottest shit in the world.
Like a cult leader.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, one day in the van, he hit the button, floor would drop out. And you'd be dealt with like, oh my God, like, do I suck? You know, why is he doing this to me now?
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it was, you know, and even leading into the years after, you know, because Bruce would do shit like old school band leaders you heard about. You know, like if you show up to a gig and as another bass player there, you're basically playing for your gig.
Yeah.
Or if there's another guitar player there, you're playing for your gig.
Yeah.
Because he would not openly fire you. That's not the way he worked. He would force you to quit, or you'd be replaced.
Right.
You know, and cool, you know, and like with me and Dwayne's situation, I think Bruce knew that we kind of overstayed our welcome because we loved him so much, and he found a way where he would find a way where you would quit or just go crazy. You know.
Now,
But-
was that him recognizing not only your talent and spirit, but like your age as well? And like,
No, not necessarily the age.
you're now, you can go on and do other things.
Yeah, basically
You
like
can do your own thing. you know?
Yeah. Once you graduate into that, it's kind of like, all right, man, it's like your parents. You know, your parents would basically be like, you know, you can stay here forever, but
Right.
Get
You're
the
not
fuck
getting
out.
a pay raise. You're
Yeah.
not whatever.
Yeah.
You're just
you know,
maintaining, and we'll give you.
and man, you know the stories with O'Teal and Jimmy and Sight from when Bruce was younger. You know, it was like when he was they were all just full of piss and vinegar and like representing this incredible. I mean, you know, Craig Marinsky in that configuration, it was the full original lineup with Matt Money on mandolin and Count Butu on percussion. I mean, it's in terms of assembled groups of a balance of the musicianship and the art and the performance art. I think it's, to my opinion, the greatest group that's ever been put together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of the outness with the inness.
Yeah.
Because you
Which
got
you
to think
super into. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Yep.
you got to think about it, like, it's amazing. I mean, O'Teal, one of the greatest bass players ever touched the instrument. Jimmy Herron, one of the greatest guitar players to ever play. Jeff Sight, one of the greatest drummers. I mean, Matt Money, one of the great. It's like these guys.
Yeah.
What separated them from other shit happening at the time was the Bruce factor. You know, because individually, those guys were absolutely just awe-inspiring, virtuosic musicians. But when he brought in Bruce as the leader, it made them into like this more human, relatable thing. Because it was like, this stuff is wild. Like you said about earlier about the whole being honest and
Yeah.
where, you know,
Authenticity
authentic
versus persona.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
it says something to, like you said, having Herring, O'Teal, and all those guys who are monsters. He was able to cultivate that, get them all in the room, want to be excited about doing a thing, be long term, make albums, whatever. So like, there's something to be said for. I mean, maybe it was that like cult like persuasion that he had on people or whatever, you know. But like, these guys are all monsters in their own way who could have been doing their own thing.
Yep.
And they came together to be with him and for however long, to create, to whatever. They had a mutual respect, or they looked up to him or trusted him, you know?
That's the big thing.
Right? You got to be able to trust. So like, for the people who don't know, and I don't really know much, can you tell the story of the last time you played with Bruce?
Sure. It was.
We got into this the last time we had you on the podcast.
Well,
Yeah.
we briefly took, because I remember that podcast going like, oh, I don't know this story. And we touched on it a little bit on that. I think you're episode number 2 or 3 of the Bass Nerds.
I think it was number 2. It was on
Early.
It was on Super Bowl Sunday.
Super Bowl Sunday.
Right.
I mean, yeah. So again, with Bruce, he, when I quit,
He got you to quit.
Yeah, he got me and Dwayne to quit. It was I won't even go into it.
Sure.
But me and Dwayne were both like, all right, we can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot accept this from him. We have to get out of here. I mean, a week later, I was having lunch with him. You know,
Yeah.
anybody else would have been like, I'm going to kick this guy's ass or something.
Right.
So, you know, the thing about the Bruce thing is you never go back. Once you're in, you can't go back. Like, you can't go join full time again.
Okay.
But in my opinion, me, Dwayne, and Nick Johnson, and me, Dwayne, and Lawson Feltman, and the brief period with William Barnes, we had 3 guitar players kind of in and out. That was kind of the last full-time group. Was basically me, Nick, and Dwayne, where Bruce had the same guys on the gig for a long time. After us, he kind of went through different phases of finding guys. Because again, you have to buy into why you're there. Was the education.
Sure.
For me, it was like I didn't go to college for music, but I went to the Colonel Bruce boot camp of music.
Right.
You know, and that's why I was there. Now,
That's a
mind
real
you,
thing.
I was at the age where I could afford to do that. If looking back, if I was 40 years old getting into that, I couldn't have done it because
Right.
I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. I was still figuring out what I wanted to do.
Well, you had no expenses in life, like whatever, no
especially back in those
debt, no fucking wife, no mortgage or rent or whatever. Like the money you had was whatever.
I mean, rent was nothing back then. It's hard to believe that, like in Atlanta, Georgia, back then, I was paying $230 a month,
right,
with roommates. You know.
Right.
Anyway, that's a whole other discussion. But so I was starting to, you know, Bruce would call me every now and then to fill in when he's trying to find a new guy, and I was always on the hunt to find the right cat. So Evan Sarver did the gig for a while. Brandon Boone, who's with the Tedeschi Trucks, did the gig. There's a few other guys that did it, but it'd always be kind of the situation where I would be like, there's this weird thing. I had my jam session that was inspired by Bruce, what he was doing in the '90s, and when cats would come through, I would funnel them to Bruce.
But would you go like, hey, I'm gonna give you the call to go to Bruce, but here's like,
I would, yeah, absolutely.
Like here's the warning.
It wasn't a warning. I just told him the reality of it. Like if you're doing this shit to get famous,
right?
You're gonna
You
get
gave him
crushed.
the same spiel. That he gave
Why are
you.
you doing it?
Yeah.
But that's valuable, though. That's like
Right.
those are very important questions that people are not asked often enough at a young age
Yep.
by somebody who has gone through it. You know?
Yep.
That was a very valuable
Oh, it's to this day.
life lesson.
It's going to be awesome, but it's not going to be easy, right?
Yeah, it's the number one thing, you know. So when I would recommend when Bruce would call, like, oh, you know anybody coming around, and I would say, well, this guy or whatever, I had to give him a spiel like, now remember, you got to do this because you want to do it.
Right.
But towards the end, I remember I was subbing, or he would sometimes Bruce would hire somebody, and if I was available, he wanted me to see what I thought. I think now, mind you, it wasn't like a straight ahead question, but he would kind of hint like, so what do you think about
Right.
which I thought was amazing that he even thought my validation meant something.
Right.
Well, there's a point in where when you're in the thick of it with someone who's just like sort of the alpha or like the band leader or like the CEO or whatever. Sometimes like those, we'll say CEOs are, this is what we're gonna do. Like, I'm the leader here. We're doing what I say. Like, your opinion, you're just a cog in the wheel. I'm not saying that that's what Bruce was treating you, but like, it's a very common thing. But then once you remove yourself from that, you put in the time and the work and the resiliency, and you show that, and then you move on to something else, and that CEO or band leader is no longer your boss. All of a sudden, like, you realize like that whole time that you were working with them or for them, they were seeking out other people's opinions who they deemed the experts, the authorities. Now you've put in the work, you've moved on to the thing, and then you become the authority that they seek out. It's this weird, like, maybe it's that cult thing, the cult of like the influence, where it's like they're seeking you out and it's like, oh man, you start to feel like the warm fuzzies and the validations again. I deal with this from time to time with a former employer, and opinions aside of that person, you see them for like, sometimes they can be the most benevolent, and then on the dime they can switch to be the most benign. Whether it's very rude and angry and yelling, or if it's very like subtle and just sort of like dismissive. Like, those two things are still
the passive
can be
aggressive
devastating.
is sure.
They could be devastating, but to be considered the authority, it's a great feeling. You've done it. You put in the work.
Well, especially after you've had your teenage years of like, what the fuck, discovering him.
Yeah.
But even the extent of like that, I look back at that going, of all the people, I wasn't like saying I want to be in this guy's band.
Yeah.
I want to be in this guy that nobody knows of.
Right.
That everybody knows.
I'm gonna get that fucker. I'm sorry, but there's this little like
Our fourth guest.
Our fourth guest here.
So I want to go back to the music production side. Like, you're into producing as well.
You want to finish the Bruce story? About
yes. Sorry.
the last thing.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, we got to do that. So I'm filling in, basically, Dwayne Trucks, who essentially I mean, Dwayne had such a huge impact on me around Atlanta because Dwayne had a steady gig at this place called Jean. It's an Indian restaurant.
Yeah.
And Dwayne hired me, and Nick. Basically, the reason why I got connected with Bruce was because I was playing with Dwayne at Jean, and Bruce finally got to hear our trio. And Dwayne grew up with Bruce, So Dwayne started playing in Bruce's band before me and Nick did. And I know for sure, which he probably won't admit it, but he was probably going, "Hey, Bruce, like, there's these two guys that I played with. You gotta check them out, man. We gotta get them." So when Bruce's 70th birthday came up, Dwayne, me, Matt Wilson, and Dwayne came up with the concept. First, it was me and I think it might have been me and Matt first, where we're gonna plan this big 70th birthday for the Colonel.
Okay.
First, it started off at like aisle 5, and then it went to the variety, and all of a sudden, Dwayne gets involved, and now it's this crazy huge, gigantic thing at the Fox Theater.
Aisle 5 is a venue.
Aisle 5 was the first 5. Is now. It was the old 5 spot where we used to play at all the time.
So smaller.
It was 250.
Yeah.
And then it eventually evolved into variety, which is 1,200, and then it was like, oh my God, this thing has got Warren Haynes, Jimmy Herring, John Popper, Chuck LaBelle, John Fishman. I mean, it was like, it became this thing where it's like a retrospective, all these amazing people that Bruce had impacts on that were come celebrate his big 70th birthday at the fucking Fox Theater, a sold out show. Now, leading into it, it was crazy because, I just that's when 2000, this was all happening. I was just playing around New York with Krantz, and my other Bruce and Krantz were my two people I was, musically and spiritually attracted to as musicians, was Bruce and Wayne Krantz. But I wasn't working with Jimmy yet or any of these people. I wasn't in Jimmy's band yet, so I didn't know. I mean, I was trying to direct all these people, and I didn't know who the hell they really were. And then that was where Dwayne was great because they know Dwayne.
He's the blue.
Yeah. And we had this thing planned, and it was just an amazing thing. And, a few people couldn't have been there that I wish could have been there. But pretty much it was everybody you could have dreamed of being there who had this connection with Bruce. But the irony is, 2 days before that gig, I played with Bruce and Darren Stanley. And Darren Stanley is this drummer that is in my band with Wax Paper, and he was my house guy at my jam for years, but he was with Bruce for 4 years. He was Bruce's last main real guy.
Okay.
And Darren did this with a family. Okay, you're talking about hardcore into music. Like, this guy had 2 kids and a wife, and he was going out with the Colonel because it was like he got it. So we played a barbecue festival in Selma, Alabama, in front of 30 people. And I tell people jokingly that was the last real Bruce gig. Was that we did his normal gig, and then that weekend was the 70th. But which, of course, the legendary story is that Bruce passed away on stage at the encore.
Of course, like a real cult leader.
Yeah, I mean, most profound.
Transcended. Yeah,
transcended the way he predicted when he was 20. If you go back to the interviews, he said if he was 20 years old, that's where the whole grease thing comes from. You reach full grease when you die on stage. So again, it adds to the legend and all this shit. But seeing someone who was that profound, I considered a father die in front of you.
Well, and as it was, it was during a song, right? And then
So story behind that is that the original encore was "I'm So Glad," and I made an adjustment saying it has to be "Love Light" because that's the first song he ever performed.
Turn on your love light.
And that was
so this is during the encore.
Yeah. The first song he ever performed was also his last.
Fuck. and as it's happening, like people aren't really getting it, right? Like, because there's video out there.
This is just Bruce being Bruce.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, when it first, because there's the weird factors of that evening was, the last thing Bruce said to me, because the whole night he kept asking me what time it was, which is also bizarre.
Yeah.
Because he knows what time it is in Portugal.
Yeah.
Scott, what time is it? 8 o'clock. And the last thing he said was, "You're playing with me in the encore, right?" And I was like, "Well, I was not supposed to because I was, doing this." And he went, "You have to play with me. You're the only person who can start or stop the songs." Which the weird part is, with me and Dwayne and Nick's era, Bruce's whole thing was no time between songs.
Just write it one after.
You would literally, if I didn't start the next song, in 3 seconds, we'd go, go, go. It was like this whole, So I went up there and I was, if the footage, I hope one day the footage will come out, but the whole show. But during that time, when I would start a song, everybody kind of looked at me like, "What?" I'm like,
Let's go.
the old man,
Right.
He had he had Jake Peavy and his guy Ben Jernigan on stage, and some people were like, "What are they doing on stage? What's the impact of why are they there?" And Bruce, I introduced Jake to Bruce because Bruce was a baseball almanac, like the guy knew every stat there was about baseball, and of course Jake Peavy's one of the greatest pitchers who ever lived, and also an amazing guy and a good musician. And so the guy that worked for Jake at the time was I think he still does, Ben Jernigan, who's another amazing guy. Now he plays guitar and promotes shows and stuff. But Ben was an EMT for 13 years, helicopter EMT. So when Bruce went down, and we all kind of knew something was weird when I saw Bruce's head on the monitor. And that's not normal.
Right.
And then Ben rushed over there and did his thing. But I was one of my best buddy, Emil Wurzler, he was on the gig, and he kind of took me upstairs. I didn't see, I was in complete shock, so I went upstairs and literally Emil put his head in his chest and carried me upstairs. I didn't see all of the ugly stuff. But,
Yeah. Did you think in that moment that like some people go like, well, of course he's not going to pass, right? Like this is just he'll be a fine thing, or
of course. I mean, you don't want. I mean, they were upstairs pacing like, what the hell was going on?
Yeah. And then ultimately, did you find out? Was that like a heart attack?
Oh, yeah.
Stroke? He just had a heart attack. What did he? Did like Bruce have a unhealthy lifestyle?
I mean, you know what? It's like I don't compare it to most men of his age who. No, I mean
Right.
he ate a lot and like it's like, but my thing is like, I don't know too many musicians like and my pops included, like when you've lived on the road that long,
Right.
Yeah.
of course they're not going to eat vegan.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he was a road dog, right?
Yeah,
You
I mean
know,
it's
so,
like so you could say he was unhealthy in terms of like if you were saying the national scale of what is unhealthy.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it's like also like I don't.
But also constantly performing.
Right.
Like there's a lot of 70-year-olds who are just sitting and watching TV all fucking day.
Yeah,
you know?
they might be eating healthy and
Right.
The way that you've told the story now, and even like the way he kept asking you what time it was, what might have been alarming or concerning, this is a person who was so in tune with stuff. Like you said, he was 20 years old when he called exactly how it was going to go down for him.
Yeah.
And like, it just speaks of like, he knew to the minute, which is why it's like, I've only got this much time. You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
I'm speculating, of course. Like, we try to make sense of things after catastrophe happens. We try to make sense of it all.
Well, it's like
Spiritual
reminiscent
level.
of.
But it's just like, it's like, he's asking you what time it is to acknowledge I only have this much time left. You know?
Yes.
Like,
Right.
have you
Looking
ever
back
thought of it
on
that
it,
way?
it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, It was
It's
wild.
like that Michael Keaton movie, that long with all the long shots where at the end he like kills himself on stage, but he doesn't actually kill himself.
Birdman?
But, like, Birdman. That's
Yeah.
what I was like. What's the name of that movie? Wow, that's
heavy,
pretty crazy story. I posted a thing on Instagram you shared yesterday.
Oh yeah.
I got a handful of questions.
Oh good. Let's do it.
That
I love it.
people submitted. So, listen, we just set up what did we set up? What is that thing on Instagram? You can set up a broadcast page. So, I don't know who this is. It doesn't say who it's from. Where did your soloing vocabulary come from?
So that's okay. That's a great question. Studying sax. Okay, when I was younger, it was it evolved. No, not evolved was not the right word. First two guys I studied soloing from was Les Claypool, Cliff Burton. Then that evolved into the fusion world, which was learning Victor Wooten solos, learning Jocko solos. And then I got into 6-string extended range basses, which not many people know, but I was a 6-string guy for a second. And that was O'Teal world. And I started studying Sean Lane, guitar player, and Pat Martino, his concepts.
Yeah.
And then I got into studying sax players.
This is a very such a common sort of what's the word I'm looking for? It's I guess it's a common path for a lot of bass players, especially of our generation.
Oh God, yeah, and it doesn't go away. That's the beautiful thing about it, So then it was, and honestly, what's crazy to think about now is that when I got to sax players, it was like I got real heavy in the Coltrane, and I realized that some of the stretches I couldn't physically do, so I was thinking about tuning my bass in different tunings, all this crazy shit. But then when I heard Greg Osby and Gary Thomas, now Greg is in Warren's band, which has been absolutely mind-blowing because Greg is one of the most epic, profound musicians to ever live, in my opinion. I mean, he's a genius. When I got into his concepts and Gary Thomas and also Eric Dolphy,
Oh yeah.
the way that they would play related to what I was hearing in terms of like, okay, what I call now octopus placement, but like these intervals where it's not as linear. Because before I was in a very linear stuff. It was like, Martino, like his concepts. And so yeah, I think a lot of sax players and a lot of the same Jockos and Les Claypools,
Nice.
Real quick, what time?
But honestly, the big guy though for the past was Krantz. Krantz is that's all over my shit.
Because you spent how many hours of your life in a room with him?
Well, that was later though. When I was younger.
Oh, when you were younger.
When I was in my early 20s is when mid-20s was when I went, oh my God, this is how I want to sound on bass. So yeah, so Krantz was everything leading into Krantz basically.
You wanted to add on that?
What time? I was just asking what time it was.
It's 2:30.
Okay, it's great.
We should probably start wrapping soon.
All right, let me.
Let's
Let's
do all
go
the
through,
questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
and then we'll do some rapid fire here.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. Maybe you know. For those who don't know, 5 T's of music. Does that the letter T's of music? Do you know what they're referencing there?
Yes. Okay, so goes back to Bruce. It's a Bruce question. Whole podcast.
He's haunting you.
Yeah, the whole podcast is Bruce. So the most important T's of music is time,
Okay.
right? Taste,
Okay.
tone, and the threat of vomit.
Is that real?
Yes, and the threat of vomit is basically, in my opinion, my interpretation, and that's a Bruce thing, is the threat of vomit, is when you hear the urgency of the unknown. The reason why we love Phil Lesh, the reason why we love these guys is because you don't know what the fuck it is.
Yeah.
There's always a threat that it's going to completely demolish any second. That's the threat of vomit.
The threat of vomit.
All right.
Wow.
What's the most challenging part of joining Warren Haynes, be it Gov't Mule or Warren Haynes Band?
Learning 1,000 songs in a short period of time. Yeah, because, again, one of the big misconception with guys is who aren't genre fluid is, certain guys would think, oh, well, this is just a easy gig on bass. We don't listen to the music, assuming because it's a jam band or a songwriter gig. But man, like all Warren's writing and from his band to Mule have these side turns that are out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So it's the most challenging part is just staying on top of the material now, because I learned over 260 or 70 songs with Mule
Yeah.
in a matter of a year and a half, and now with Warren's band it's more. So
Because you guys, it's not the same set list.
every night's different.
Wow.
And he's so trusting and such a masochist or sadist or whatever that he'll just call tunes on us to keep it, I think, interesting.
On the spot.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go. This is the vibe of the room right now.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
There's been plenty of times on that stage in front of a lot of people where I'm like, man, I really don't know what the bridge might be, but I'm gonna fucking see if I do.
Fucking figure
Well,
it
there's
out.
that moment in a lot of jam band shows. Sometimes it's like almost like going to a NASCAR event where it's like you're not actively waiting for like shit to blow up, but when it happens, it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's what I was waiting for. And it's like always in jazz, like nobody's pissed. It's like usually this like very lively, fun moment, and then the crowd cheers like crazy.
It's pretty crazy.
You know, because it's such a human moment on stage.
Yep.
Yeah.
This person, JoJo Bass _bass on. Got a bunch of different questions here, but my favorite is best shoes for playing bass.
Ooh, that's a good
Cowboy boots.
I was wondering if you were gonna go with the cowboy boots.
I mean, here's the thing. Like my wife is essentially she's a visual artist and clothes designer. So meeting her affected me becoming more of myself.
Right.
And I personally think the more badass I feel on stage, the better I play. And
Well, you definitely have a style, and I feel like if more and more you're leaning into it. Sometimes, I mean, like Warren's got his thing, but you are like in a full suit with like straight out of a country western movie sometimes or something like that.
well,
Or
so
the big
it's
hat.
that metalhead meets my roots, because you go through different phases. I mean, I started wearing the denim vest years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember some old timer said a joke about, oh, you'll be going to leather soon enough. And I was like, what is that supposed to mean? And eventually I was like, yeah.
They got me.
They got me.
I got.
Yeah.
I got Conway Twitty.
Yeah.
That's great.
What makes the perfect P bass?
The weight.
Ooh, interesting.
As in heavier is better,
Nope.
or
Lighter the better.
lighter the better?
I swear to God, this is my own, probably my way of looking. It's probably not even correct, but I can walk into a store, go to a rack of vintage P's, do this, and know if they're going to be good or not.
That's interesting. The like, you're totally right. Like some of my favorite P basses I've ever played, vintage ones especially, they've been pretty light, like much lighter than everything else. But some of my favorite jazz basses I've ever played have been fucking Bodenkers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Super heavy.
Anything from the 70s.
Oh yeah.
That's the weird dichotomy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you on that.
Well, like I've always found, and maybe I'm like the internet's going to roast me for this one, but like I found jazz basses to have a sort of a scooped out sort of sound naturally, like inherently, and the P bass as being a bit more mid-range focused, which a lot of that's to do with like the positioning of the pickup and how the string resonates. But like the lighter weight plus the positioning of the pickup, more of those mids come out and it's like balanced, right?
Yes.
Whereas the jazz bass, it's heavier and like those mids sort of stay put in a way.
I was never a big. I mean, it's weird. My phases with a jazz bass was more influenced by the extremes of with Jocko and then Anthony Jackson's sound.
Yeah.
And I started playing. The Mulan jazz I got from them was because of the McLaughlin tour and for Jimmy, because the P was not cutting it for that gig. I mean, it was too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think weight and, in my opinion, honestly, the reason why you're spending all that fucking money on a vintage P is the neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have yet, and I mean, I'm a Mule guy. It's the beginning. I love the shit, and it's its own thing. But those necks on those vintage Ps, which are worn in perfectly, is what you're buying, in my opinion. Because it's
I was thinking about it today. What's the most versatile bass? A P bass. Right? It's got you got tone on or tone off, one pickup, and somehow that motherfucker just fits everywhere.
I don't get it.
It just fucking fits
It just
everywhere. Unbelievable. So you talked about how Stash getting some record recommendations. Somebody
Cartoon
asked
character, yeah.
top 3 blues / R&B albums.
That's a rude question.
Come on, give me a couple of your faves.
As of right now, if you were to pick 3 right now,
Oh my God. Okay, so I mean, do I have to say the obvious ones? No.
no, you say whatever you feel right now in this moment.
we're talking about blues in terms of like R&B. I mean, when we talking about blues and R&B are different.
Well, it says top 3 blues / R&B albums. Give a little bit of each, or
Maybe how about we do 3 blues, 3 R&B?
right.
All right, so oh God, I mean the influence,
Paul Reed Smith Band.
huh?
No, it's the Paul Reed Smith Band.
Hanson.
Yeah.
Okay, so R&B, all Stax, any Stax record.
Yep.
Like the influence of Duck Dunn. That's the reason why I started playing. I mean, I could listen to that stuff all day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know I got big into the Philly sound stuff a few years ago because of Ronnie Baker.
Yeah.
You know, so any Philly sound stuff. Not really particular records. I think eras are more important for R&B.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then and then in terms of modern stuff, because Donny Hathaway's, all that stuff, we already know about that.
Right.
But I love PJ Morton stuff.
Okay.
I mean, I think he's on in terms of modern R&B, keeping it
Yeah.
interesting.
I was hoping you would say Casey and JoJo, but that's just
Well, that's,
I was thinking
that's-
D'Angelo.
Oh my!
Some Simply Red. Right.
Yeah, but I mean, D'Angelo's been said so much; it's
Right.
obvious. It's like
Yeah.
Right.
we should not. I mean, Voodoo's in its own
Right.
category, but I think in terms of newer stuff, there's still a lot of cool stuff happening. I mean, honestly, like that last Marcus King record is a great R&B.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah, it is.
That album, what's the
That
song?
show we saw at Talia Hall with you.
Yeah,
guys,
where
that
you
was-
sat in with him for that week or whatever.
Yep.
But that Fucked Up My Life Again, that
Yep.
track. So the album version is good, but he did like a Fender's cardboard sessions. I don't know if you saw that on YouTube, where all the instruments are made out of cardboard, but like they're
Yeah.
real instruments. And the album version is good, but I prefer his like guitar solo in the live YouTube.
Sure.
Because on the album, it's like this reverse envelope filtery thing. It's not like a traditional guitar solo, and I prefer. And in the YouTube video, he goes, "This is the first time we've ever played this song live," and fucking murders it. That album is really
It's ridiculous,
so good.
And I'm on 2 tracks, which
Nice.
on that. I'm
I didn't
on,
know it.
Bipolar Love and Hero, which was some of my actual favorite session work I've ever done.
Yeah.
I was real proud that came out. And there's another band from Austin called the Greyhounds. I talk about all the time, but
Okay.
they're definitely in the perfect blues R&B hybrid.
Nice.
They're perfect.
Marcus King, real quick. Did you ever talk to Marcus about his album that he did with Rick Rubin at all?
That's the last one.
Is that the one?
Yeah, we're talking about.
Is that one?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I've seen
Mood
some
Swings.
clips about Marcus talking about his experience with Rick Rubin that have kind of been. He's not bad. He never badmouths Rick, but he's like kind of like the process was very long.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not how I traditionally do things.
I've heard that.
Yeah, I think
I
it took a couple years to do that
But
album.
that's
Yeah.
Rick Rubin's MO, is to
Yeah.
break tradition, you know?
Right.
I didn't talk to him about it.
No?
No.
I was curious. And then real quick,
And the blue stuff, Freddie, Albert,
Yep.
Albert King.
Albert King.
and
Freddie
BB,
King, right.
and then it's just that such an endless. I mean, yeah, and then a lot. I mean, that's. We were just talking about Freddie King the other day. It's like the blues is such an endless vault, you keep going down and down, and you start hearing where they got influenced. You know, I mean, Sidell Davis is one of my all-time inspirations.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who Sidell is, check him out. But again, like, blues is just endless stuff.
Real quick, what's his favorite studio?
Ooh.
Like me?
Yeah, what's your favorite studio?
Man. I mean, honestly, like, as of late, Power Station New England.
They submitted the question.
Wow, that's
Good lucky, right? Wow. That's
Well, I
lucky.
wasn't going to show it to you if you
Wow,
said,
that's amazing.
said Electric Lady or something.
No, I mean, look, I you know, there's a lot of different styles of studio, and like, you know, in terms of like small kind of like analog rooms, there's a spot in Atlanta called Diamond Street Studios, which is my buddy Spencer Garn. He runs it, and that's a vibe. But in terms of like a big, beautiful, amazing space, like Power Station New England is unreal. It's like it's perfect. It checks all the boxes for me.
Nice.
Do you have like a go-to setup when you're recording? Like, what do you, like, not even necessarily amp-wise, is there like a specific preamp that you use or anything like
Compressor.
that? Microphone that you tend to use?
I mean, RE20 on the cab is my favorite. I like to track with three different lines. You know, a line coming out of the capo.
Yeah.
And then I have a clean line, and then a mic.
And a mic.
To a B15 or whatever they have.
Yeah.
And then do you have a preference on like a preamp chain that you're going through, like 1073, something like that?
That just honestly, that I let the engineer
Kind of whatever
decide,
they got in the room.
Because again, like, you know, Evan over there at Power Station he's such a badass, and he knows the room.
Right. I mean, you're probably going to be going through a UA or a Neve or API
they have
or whatever. It's not going to be a bad piece.
I think they have the old Electric Lady Neve there. Actually.
Yeah.
I think it might be an API. I mean, it's again like when it turns to studio stuff, it's like I'm all about experimenting, and I think being sold on one thing without being in a situation is kind of pointless.
Yeah.
Because it's like I've gotten some of my best sounds at home, and I've got some of my best sounds at the Power Station.
One of my favorite distortion like sounds that I've ever gotten was out of one of those Fender like combos, like the newer Fender Rumble combos.
Yeah.
And like having the drive crank and then a Boss HM2 heavy metal distortion. Sounded awesome.
Yeah.
With a Squire bullet bass.
You see?
Loved it. Like all of that stuff, like would I take that on the road? Probably not.
Right.
But like when you find that sound, a lot of it of course is in the hands.
You might have it up in your hotel room after the gig, right? Like a little beater bass.
And speaking of which,
Yes.
you've got the luxury of playing. Like I've been wanting to ask you this for a bit. I see like a lot of bands who go on tour, bass players. They have like all of these basses, and I've seen you play like Moon Mission, Bill Lesch's, or Mission Control. That Olympic bass. I've seen Grabbers and Rippers, and that your
Thunderbirds,
Illuminati signature bass, which is killer. But like all that stuff, I'm assuming is in road cases, on the, like when you're on the road, right?
Well, yeah, it's a big vault.
Big vault, yeah, and that comes out. That's usually waiting for you at the venue.
Yes.
So like, I see this bass here. Like, what's the go-to bass that's usually in the hotel room so you can actually like practice? Because you got to stay up on all these songs, I'm imagining.
Yeah, I the modern vintage P bass. It's like
The Elric guy.
it's like a 73 clone. I bring that with me to the room.
What about it would be like a 73 clone?
The color and the neck shape.
Yeah.
And then like the nut width.
Yeah, it's like
Because they had like
my main bass for years was 73.
Yeah.
I got in
Okay.
high school, and so I was definitely used to that.
Yeah.
Man, that Paul, like I think of Paul Jackson. That's the brown one, right?
Yep, it's the same.
I'm gonna fucking steal that bass. I want that bass so bad.
It is.
We had one when I was in high school. That was like the jazz band bass that was there, and I hated it back then. And then when I was like 18, I took it on a gig because I my bass was in the repair shop, and I asked my old band director, "Hey, I need a bass. Can I borrow this one?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And I took it on a gig, and I was like, man, this is awesome. And it was a 73 Mocha.
Yep.
What they were calling it back then.
That.
Oh.
Black pickguard.
And then you see the video, Paul Jackson.
I mean, I didn't appreciate that bass until essentially in my mid-20s.
I love your bass so much. That is my favorite. Like, that's my favorite Fender.
And it will never go on the road.
No.
I still use it for a lot of sessions.
It's the sacred.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're
Gonna do some rapid fire real quick.
I've got tons of questions, but I know you got bus calls.
What time is it?
1:45.
Well, let me just tell them I'll get a ride there.
I mean, I'll
sure?
give you a ride.
Yeah.
So we're going. We had to take a little bit of potty break and just make sure the bus wasn't going to leave him behind. But I just want to give a quick shout out to Rockford Roasting Company. That's our host for today. They have this really cool tumbler for their 10-year anniversary. They are not a sponsor. We just happen to be
using
here.
their beautiful space
They let
here.
us use it. And coffee's good. They roast it here.
Delicious coffee.
Delicious. And this thing, feel how cold that is.
Oh man,
That's ice. That's like holding a Cuba ice in your hand.
that is as good as it gets.
That's nice. That's nice ice.
Before I forget, also, Nicholson Hardware.
Yes,
Save the
Rockford.
Save the day.
Save the day.
We got nice natural light from the window, but we have the studio light, and I'm an idiot, and I forgot a couple things. One of them being the power source for this light.
And I ran to Nicholson Hardware in Rockford, Illinois, and I was like, I need this cable. And the guy was like, we don't sell that, but I have one in the back under the thing. You can have it. So he gave it to us for free, and
Yeah.
we're very appreciative.
Rockford's all right. Turns
Rockford's
out.
killing
okay. We're doing
Rockford's all right.
Uh,
So we last left off. We were talking about you've got the modern vintage bass that you bring on the road with you.
Yep.
And it's got like that 73 sort of style. We love your 73P bass. Obviously, I'm going to steal it someday when you're not looking. But you know, you've been doing the Mule gig for a while. It's put a few other things on hold. But one of the things I was really excited about the past couple of years is your solo project, Wax Paper.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit more about that and the progress. Where are you in that stage?
So yeah, Wax Paper came out of my house band on my Tuesday night gig in Atlanta for years. It was me and Darren Stanley and Spencer Pope on modular synths. And there's been some, this guy Marshall Ruffin played guitar in it for a second, and he's in this amazing band called The Improvement Movement, which are blowing up now. But it was always me, Darren, Spencer, and Julian Scott, the percussionists most of the time. So years ago, when I went through a pretty bad divorce, at the time I was recording the first Wax Paper record. This is 7-8 years ago now.
You talk about it like it's like 70 years ago. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of it just coming out last year, it took a
That's
long
true.
time.
That's true.
But the concept was I took, it's definitely a conceptually. It started as a trio, then I started adding like Emil Worster's playing guitar on it, and Carter Arrington's on it, and Zach Piles, who is also a member of Improvement Movement, is playing keys on it. And the record was a bunch of improv that me and Jason Kingsland, and Jason Kingsland was my longtime engineer running mate, and he lives in Athens, but we sat and edited this album, and it was kind of in a way, it was definitely it's a very dark album, but the concept is basically improvised based. That I kept on the shelf because I always heard singing over it, and I tried a few people. It was a complete disaster, and everybody's like, "Man, you're gonna put this album out?" I was like, "I'm still waiting to find the right singer." And when I was living in New Orleans, it clicked to me that my friend Sasha, who has this project called Trash Magnolia, she's just this amazing musician. She's perfect to do it.
Yeah.
And she put vocals over it, and I was like, holy shit, it's done. So we put it out through my label, 29th Street Editions, I guess last year. And, I still want to pursue it more. But, it's like, getting, now it's just, and be closer to Atlanta again, it'll be a little easier.
So, in terms of the instrumentation on that record, do you envision the same sort of personnel when you bring it to the live show?
Yeah, I mean, we did our first one with Sasha in Christmas in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And it was great. And and with Scott playing percussion. But I was, in my mind, I've always envisioned it being visually, because you know me, with the visuals, with the music, it's kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so we haven't really done an official wax paper gig yet.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Do you envision it being something where you try to recreate the songs off of the record now that you have Sasha in the fold?
Yeah.
Or is it still going to be the spirit of improv based?
Both.
A little bit of both.
Yeah, yeah. There's
Okay.
certain things we're gonna keep and then expand upon, and mostly improvised based.
Do you envision the songs that like have the vocals on there sounding similar to or having the same sort of structure as what's on the record, or will it just sort of live in its own thing as its own thing each time you perform it?
Probably live its own thing. I mean, keeping the spirit of the older jazz cats in the old, you know, jam bands.
Yeah. So there's enough of a structure and a form
Yeah.
to those tunes to be able to recreate the melodies and stuff and the vibe live.
Yeah, because you know, after years doing that steady weekly gig of all improvised music and all the different lineups over the years and the configurations. I mean, at one time I had like 9 people every week. It was almost like a weird orchestra of like improv. And eventually it got down to, because you know you evolve, your taste changes, and I was talking to guys. You know, at the time I was sick of hiring guitar players, no matter how good they were. And it went to, I was like, you know what, like let's start improvising as if we were producers, not musicians.
Interesting.
And that's where Wax Paper kind of came from, was like more conceptually, like we're creating a song and no solos
Yeah.
was the thing.
So just on the spot creating an actual song
Yeah. Like,
as opposed to just like Noodle City.
well, yeah, I knew, yeah, it was weird. It just, and then Darren, and so now, you know, we played together every week for 5 years. So it's this really special connection we all have. And we, you know, last year we didn't play but once. And it's like we never stopped. You know, It was a
Right.
beautiful moment. You know.
You know, I've been enough removed from the jam and like improv scene. Like I'm close enough in proximity with friends like you, but that was like everything coming up, playing in gigs when you're I was like 14, 15, 16 years old, being up until 4 in the morning with my brother playing. Most of it's improvised. And then I've been so far removed from that muscle I've you know, been complaining about. Like it's just been sort of gone until fairly recently. And just sort of like revisiting your projects and some other projects and seeing them live, it's just sort of like really, I think the biggest superpower with musicians like yourself and like the jazz greats, et cetera, and improv greats is your ability to actually listen. Like listen and respond. It's like constant, like it's like an improv comedy, it's yes and, you know? But I love the idea of approaching it from a producer's perspective. That's kind of refreshing because most of the time, when people think of improvised music, they think of just solos. Okay, naturally we're going to progress, and now you're going to take a solo. But like, are you all still soloing when you would perform these live, or would it be like more about if you're taking a solo, but it's more about the texture and less so much about the notes?
It was, like you said, it's just listening, you know. So, I mean, again, solos would happen naturally, but it would sometimes, I mean, we had a stint one time, I got recordings of it, where, I mean, there wasn't a single solo for weeks, you know. It was just, we would go into different grooves like that, you know. But it balanced itself out. I mean,
Were you recording all these?
a lot of them were recorded. And
Yeah.
So I have a lot of material I got to edit and put out. But now it's so old, it's hard.
Yeah.
My plan is with Wax Paper is to basically, we're going to do a new record all within the same room. And then I'm going to release all the older live stuff just casually and just say it's
Yeah.
coming out.
Yeah.
Just because there's so much of it, because it's
Yeah.
like years of improv.
And it's all different. It's
all
not like you're
different.
listening to the same record or the same.
And a
like,
lot of it's trash, you know. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast where, you know, when you're improvising 100%, it's going to work or it doesn't.
Yeah.
You know.
I find that the jam scene, which you're now like very much immersed in these past couple of years especially, is a lot more forgiving of what we find of our own craft as trash. There's probably plenty of times with like all of the jam band like heavies where they walked off stage and they were like, well, that was shit. But like the audience loved it because it still was in familiar territory. Do you think that like, have you found that like you were sort of nervous about putting something out that was improvised that you just wasn't up to your standards at a musical level? Are you worried about it not being well received? And if so, like whose opinion are you worried about?
You know, I mostly didn't get released because I was waiting for me to finally wise up and be like, your friend Sasha has been here the whole time. You just haven't thought about it. I'm like very anti-elitist in terms of like art. I think it's accessible to everybody. So to me, it's that musician part of the brain. It's like I had to realize like why I was judging it like I was. It's because of your ego.
Right.
Your ego is also negative and positive. It's like the positive. I say positive, but like think of yourself as the greatest is ego, and also think of yourself as the worst is your ego.
Yeah.
So it's like after playing into that kind of musician circle so much for years, and it's a balance.
Yeah.
Like people, the fans who are obsessed. At the end of the day, I'd rather play for them people who don't know anything about it, because they're there having a great time. Mm-hmm. They might be on some psychedelics, they might be on whatever. Their entire expression outside of their job is seeing live music.
Yeah.
So I prefer to play in front of them than a room full of arm crossers.
All right.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's like, obviously, a big compliment are people who are very intelligent listeners.
Yeah.
Because musicians are always going to have your own opinions about what's good or bad.
Yeah.
So,
that's right.
End of the day, I'm not really going to take to heart like musicians that think it's trash.
Yeah, I mean, like that's right. Like like what's the point of like holding something back that you've already released into the world by playing that show?
Yeah.
Like why not like release a copy of the show for other people to?
I mean, Wayne Krantz, back in the day, he played his shows up every week.
Yeah.
On his website, he was the first kind of guy to do that in that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something that shit is always wild.
But then it's like, even with that, eventually it was like, man, I had an off night tonight, but no one noticed it.
Right.
Yeah, it's just us. It's always just us.
So
many times you walk off stage and you're just like, oh man, this just wasn't it. Then like you're just hit with all these people. That was awesome. That was so cool when you did this thing. Like even the musicians like out there who are like really like listening to it and dissecting it. It's just like we still can't, like our ego gets in the way.
Right. And honestly, it's the musicians that are into stuff. It's more of the athletic side aren't going to see a lot of the stuff I'm playing anyway. For the most part,
Right. Yeah. Well, what about the record label? Like, what other releases do you have coming out in the?
God, we have so many in the back burner right now. It's just because we're trying. Basically, we recorded so much stuff in a year that we're kind of taking not a hiatus, but trying to get everything together for the next big blast of records coming out, because we couldn't. Like right now, we can't even record new stuff because we're backlogged.
Right.
There's all this crazy shit that me and Austin conceived. And Austin White runs the label, who's an incredible bass player. And synth lord, as I call him. But yeah, So we got that's a lot of that's coming. I have a solo record with this trio record I did with Matt Chamberlain and Ryan Klattner. Ryan Klattner is, he's my very inspirational cat. Like, I talk about him a lot. I post a bunch of his videos. I think he's incredible, and we work together all the time.
Now, when you say solo record, is this Matt Chamberlain's solo record or Klattner's or yours? Okay.
My first trio.
The Kevin Scott trio.
Kevin Scott trio. I've got some compositions. I got a lot of improv, some electronic stuff.
And what's like the general instrumentation off of that? Like
Guitar trio.
Just guitar trio. Nice. But you're not playing guitar.
No, Ryan Klattner.
Because this is bass nerds.
Yes.
And you're here for bass nerds.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
For the low end.
So it's a bass trio.
Yes.
That's right.
It's a bass trio. That's right. It is a bass trio.
He's Kevin Scott. He's
a
a
bass
bass
trio.
player.
You're
It's
right.
a bass trio. Happens to have guitar.
But
nobody's perfect.
That's
Ryan-
supporting the bass.
That's right.
Ryan Klattner and those guys support the bass.
That's right. I'm sure he would love to hear that.
He would actually.
Yeah. He gets it.
Your
That's
rhythm section.
Yeah, man. Well, that's exciting. Any other like really cool other projects coming out? Actually, as far as the Kevin Scott trio, like when do you anticipate that record coming out?
Hopefully in the spring.
Of this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting.
It's done.
Digital, vinyl combination.
Yeah, that's the goal, was to get. Digital is gonna be for sure. Vinyl and other ways of selling merch.
Yeah. Are you now being on the like record company side of things? Is the vinyl pressing like log jam? Is that still a thing?
Yeah, that's why I haven't put anything out.
Yeah, like finding the place to actually print it.
Yeah, and we're gonna do eventually. We're gonna do backlogs and release everything physical, but like we just want to get the music out there and then worry about its re-releases and some special stuff. Probably that's kind of the goal.
Awesome, man.
You know,
I can't wait to hear it. I want to hear. Like, I want to like get inside your brain. Like I've experienced the improvised side of your brain, but the composition's what I'm most curious about.
Yeah, there's a bunch of compositions, also stuff that sounds like it's improvised, but it's composed, which is kind of a thing. And then me, Ryan Klattner, and Kenny Kowalski from Imperial Triumph.
I love Kenny.
We have a trio.
Yes.
With Austin playing synth, and Ryan Klattner is known as the most prolific guitar player I've ever heard, but in terms of the black metal scene, I mean he's a genius writer. So we combined heavy improvised music with black metal, and then so we got that coming out, which has no name yet. So it's a bunch of stuff in that kind of vein.
Oh man, that's so exciting. I mean, like you're saying a lot of the right stuff to me. I'm not sure if it's going to speak to Jody as much.
Listen, I'll give everything a listen. Let's go.
Kenny is it. I love watching him play. I love all of the stuff, all the projects. Every member of Imperial Triumph, Steve Blanco.
Oh yeah.
Ezra on guitar, like that. I love that band. They're so batshit crazy. Their covers of like they did a Paranoid Android by Radiohead. Sounds nothing like it.
Yeah.
Like there's like little motifs that are there,
Sure.
but it's like imagine Jody. Like the seediest, dirtiest, nastiest, like most evil, vile, like underbelly of New York that exists like in the ultra uber elite. The shit, the eyes wide shut, behind closed doors meets Salo in like the underbelly of New York City. And that to me is Imperial Triumphant. And like you watch Kenny play, the drummer, and he's got these supreme jazz chops, but like he's playing this black metal, but he's like traditional grip sometimes too.
He invented a blast beat.
Oh shit!
Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
I mean, that's for anybody to claim that. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, Kenny is just an unbelievable musician. Like, he's one of the greatest drummers alive, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. He like when him and Steve were on tour, not with Imperial Triumphant. I think they were playing with, who were they playing? It was like a prog band. It was like almost like a legacy prog band. Like, the name escapes, but they came by the store. They're explaining.
Was it Brand X?
Yes. I don't know if Blanco was in Brand X at the time, but he was there for some reason.
Well,
but
Brand X had Percy,
Yeah,
the fretless monster.
Yes.
What's his name?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
But they were explaining Imperial Triumphant. I looked him up, and then I heard it, and I texted Kenny immediately, like, holy God, this is like the craziest, dirtiest, like blackened metal shit meets Zappa meets John Cage through composed madness. And he's like, yes, you get it. He's awesome. That dude rules. That's exciting to hear. You like in that, because now like your metal sensibility is going to be coming out of this too.
Yeah, that's another thing is
because you did that shit with Matt Pike too.
So this will be a first mention on the pod.
Exclusive.
That Matt Pike, me, Brent Hines, and Dwayne Trucks
Oh fuck.
have been recording a record. We're maybe do a tour. We're starting a band.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
So, and on top of that, me and Dwayne and Brian Klattner have a doom metal band. So I'm trying to, because the metal side of me is huge, and it's like, to me the beautiful thing about 2025 and the younger musicians more than even our generation is that everything's becoming gender fluid,
Right.
genre fluid. It's like,
Yep.
Right.
it's like I'm amazed now that one of the draws when we were younger, I'm sure is like speaking for you guys, but when you picked a community, it was kind of like, these are my people because these people don't get it.
Right.
But now, all the people with the same mentality are all coming together saying, you know what? Not only do I love Dark Throne, but I do love James Brown.
Yeah, that's
And
what's
we
up.
can hang out. you
Dude,
know?
I was closeted Deadhead for the longest time in the early stages of my life in Chicago because it was all hardcore punk and all metal all the time. But I just got so tired of hearing metal. That's not metal, that's metal. But then you find all of a sudden, like, there's all of these really awesome, like, metalheads that you see at all the shows, and they're in all of the bands around Chicago. It turns out they are also closeted Deadheads for a while. So then when you start talking about your favorite shows and stuff, it's just like, fuck it. Like, we're all in this together. And then, like, you'll see them pop up at shows. You'll see them at, like, Kendrick Lamar show or, like, you know, Odd Future or Trash Talk. Like, it's just, you don't have to just like the one thing. Like,
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's exciting to hear, like, all of these different styles coming out this year from you.
And what's also been, that's been my whole MO for a long time is combining things.
Yeah.
It's just exciting.
Yeah.
It's like, that was the coolest thing of the height of my jam, my Tuesday night jam was on any given week, it would be a gospel keyboard player playing with a guy in an Oi band on guitar and then like a blues shuffle drummer improvising.
That sounds fun.
And that was kind of my whole MMO was just making people understand how absurd it is to just be so attached to something that's like
Yeah.
a genre. It's like, okay, it's like, I get it. Now, certain people, I think it is important on the other end of the coin to kind of, because I would like to consider myself try to be a historian of music as much as I'm a musician, but at the same time, I don't want to play like that. And I think that some people get locked into like, like if you're so hardcore into a past genre that that's your life, you're a historian. And to me, and I don't want to offend anybody, but it's almost like cosplay.
Yeah, you have to wear the uniform as well.
And it's like, dude, like if you're our age and you're saying that the only thing you are going to listen to is like, essentially a genre of music that was popular in the 50s, and just shut up your brain and say, I wasn't influenced by this growing up. Now, that's all you, but it seems kind of like ignorant.
One-dimensional. And you're depriving yourself of a lot of really great shit that's out there.
That's
But
what
I
I'm
love the
saying.
way that you put it. It's like someone who's like into like black and metal who is also into James Brown. That's great.
Well, I think we gotta mention your arch nemesis Ted Technical.
Oh
before
God,
we
don't
do
even. That guy.
I think he's
What
been
is he
calling
up
you
to?
out.
What's
What's the new beef?
Well, here's the thing. Ted, if there's video of this, is that he assaulted me in Jamaica.
No. When you were on that jam cruise?
No, when we were doing somehow again, I know we look a lot alike, and I saw that video of you, him messing with you and doing that interview.
I had to put the kibosh. He was talking shit about Chicago.
Oh, I know.
The city of broad shoulders. We'll cut to that right now.
There's the clip.
And there's the cut. Like, him and Styx, that arrogant fuck.
I know. What sucks about it is that
Styx just like eggs Ted on.
Of course, they live in this weird world, and we look a lot alike. I am not Ted technical. Look at the camera again. I'm not Ted technical. He still makes, basically after he assaulted me in Jamaica, he got thrown out of the resort. Because at that point, people still thought I was bullshitting him. But again, if you watch the video, you see this guy assault me. This is, it's like, and Warren and these people thought we were the same person. So when I showed up and I was like, Warren, what the hell's going on? He goes, what are you talking about? I was like, that's not me. So you can, the footage is on the website, but I had to block Ted on social media. He still sends me threatening messages every now and then.
I mean, this is an obsession at this point. How the hell did he make his way down to Jamaica?
Warren's camp, they've hired him for this resort gig we do. And the only reason why I know what they're doing is because I saw that they're playing Wednesday Night Titans. Are playing a gig on March 14th at Gold Diggers in LA. Because they still tag me and all this stuff, and it's just really disturbing.
Well, what do you hope? I mean, are you just like restraining order, trying to stay away? Or are you hoping to have a confrontation? Or is there a score to settle here?
I don't know at this point. I don't know. I've again through the internet, I saw that they have this gig at Gold Diggers on March 14th. I think it's I don't know what time. You have to go to their Instagram to check it out. But I saw that they're doing stuff in April, like in Atlanta and in Nashville and in Memphis or something. But again, I
think he might be trying to steal your Warren gig or what?
I really do think he was doing that.
He could because you got a similar look. He could sneak past security.
No, he let Warren. He sat in with
what?
Yeah, him and Styx.
When at
the
Jamaica?
I got assaulted, and then he walks up there and takes my bass.
The nerve.
The nerve.
I mean,
listen.
I will say, Wednesday Night Titans, it's entertaining.
Yeah,
that's all it is. But to me, that's just like, there's no passion there. He's just a shill.
It's no matter how innovative and cool it is. Those guys are very dangerous people.
Yeah,
and they've. Again.
Well, we don't typically like to take sides on bass nerds, but I think Mark, tell me if I'm wrong, like Ted Technical is not allowed on the Bass Nerds podcast.
Absolutely not.
I saw that video on YouTube. It was horrible.
I
mean, I'm a big guy. I can
unless he's coming to apologize or
I don't think we'll ever hear.
I don't know that I would
also
trust him.
Assaulted that interviewer.
Yeah. Wow. Can't have that. Well, we're watching out for you.
Yeah, look out, Ted Technical.
Leave me alone.
Yeah, leave him alone. I think I think we're about overdue for
some rapid fire here.
I think this is the perfect time to do that.
Let's do it here. I'm sure you've seen No Wrong Answers.
Of course.
Mostly bass related. I don't have my book with me, so I'm just going to go off the top of my dome.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hard case or gig bag?
Gig bag.
Do you have a favorite gig bag?
Union Blues leather.
Leather.
I mean,
I matches that.
Yeah,
they don't make them anymore, right?
Huh?
They don't make them anymore?
No, they don't. But even their own gig bags are my favorite.
All right. Tube or solid state?
That is a tough one for me. I mean, I think in terms of the overall audiophile high end, then I would say it's tube.
Okay.
Especially if it's a Volta, the John Freer
nice.
Volta.
Nice. All right. What's your current bass rig?
Current bass rig with Warren Haynes Band is my Godfrey Volta, which is like my kind of signature tube amp, and that is running through a 810 Ampeg Heritage, I think. And I have the what's the pedal? I can't.
Capo?
Huh?
The capo?
Capo's off the rig now. I'm not using it. I'm using the back of the Volta.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
But the filter, the filter pedal, the Osiris
filter.
incredible addition.
I just shot a video on it, a demo. I haven't released it yet, but it'll probably be released by the time we release this. Very cool. Very
It's an
cool
always
pedal.
on filter pedal.
Yeah, there's no switch.
No, and what I do is I run it. Again, this is the way I do it. Is I look at it if I was in the studio because the way I use higher low pass is to kind of edge out frequencies.
Yeah.
Right.
Because every day, like right now, Chris Bailey, who's our incredible monitor engineer, he basically EQs the room. with
Right.
EQ.
Yeah.
And I go in there and kind of round out to make it less edgy. So
Yeah.
that's my current rig.
And
So
then
you're not into edging, is what I get. To each their own. It's
Each their
you're
own.
missing out.
and then what as far as gig tour, like what basses are you mostly playing on the road right now?
So I have a bunch in the vault, but lately for Warren's band, because Warren Haynes Band is kind of like a R&B meets soul meets rock.
Right.
So I play my Mulan P a lot, and then I play my Illuminati signature on majority of the stuff too.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
But the Ripper comes out for certain stuff. I like to utilize all of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's so many different flavors too,
Turn on what the song is.
Yeah.
And if I have time to switch,
Right. Favorite fretboard material?
Honestly, I was a Maple guy since I started.
All right.
Even my first bass was a PB Patriot Maple. My P bass was a Maple. My first Mulan P bass was a Maple. For me, I think when you combine Maple with flat wounds, it kind of balances out the kind of more edgy tone.
Okay.
And it's a perfect mid-range kind of blast compared to Rosewood or Ebony. Now, mind you, tonight you'll be seeing me play a majority of an Ebony P bass because I didn't bring that white Mulan with me. But I also play I got this insane deal on a 77 Stingray
Okay.
Yeah.
for $1,200.
Oh shit.
That's insane. And
Maple fretboard.
and how much does that weigh?
Weighs a lot.
A lot. I'm sure it sounds amazing though.
Yeah, it does. I use that. I don't use that with Mule, but I use it with Warren for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite effects pedal?
The Desert Island pick will always be an OC2
All right.
if I
A
can
lot of
only
OC2s.
bring one. Right now, besides that one, I know the Tensor's old news by now, but that's I love that fucking thing. It has a mind, and the ring mod, the frequency analyzer that.
EHX?
Yeah, that's been, my whole ring mod thing is stolen from Wayne Krantz soloing, and then the way Tim would utilize it for years.
Okay.
Which I've seen some people recently online copying some stuff I did with that won't remain nameless.
It wasn't me. I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
Well, are you talking about? Is this another Ted Technical fucking hit? What do you mean?
Might be him and some other people, but anyway, we won't go there. But yeah, so I would say OC2 more than anything. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a piece of gear you regret getting rid of?
Yeah, my first Midwestern Sarek.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I regret that. For you.
Yeah, and a very good friend of mine has it in Memphis, and he's a great bass player, and I'm glad he's playing a lot of it. But when those times in my career where I didn't have a lot of work, and it was
Been there.
and I had we had to get somebody to move, and
What you gotta do?
and I'm happy that my buddy Neil grabbed it because he's an amazing guy, great bass player, and he's playing it.
Yeah.
I do regret singing that bass.
Well, maybe you get it back one day.
Because he knows, now I didn't realize what Jake told me, that's the first B90 he ever did. And it only has one racing stripe, which is the only one.
Whoa. I bet that stings a little bit more too.
Yeah.
Knowing, yeah.
I
Well,
miss
at least
that
it's in
kid.
the family.
It's in the family, for
Yeah.
sure. In the family.
Right.
You can always visit,
Yeah.
How often do you change your strings?
You know what? My whole thing for a long time was I would switch out. I would use new flats because I read so many people that hated it. And I was like, well, I can get an original sound if I do that.
Yeah.
That's smart.
And that's what I did.
Then you went broke buying
Yeah.
flats.
Yeah, that was a whole other thing. But yeah, I use the P basses. They stay on. Here's what I do now. My old white Mule, the gold one, that's got rounds on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other Mule I have has heavier gauge flats that are really old. And then the Sunburst I've been playing a lot, I kind of switch out kind of like every 3 months.
Yeah.
Because I've been lucky I have enough basses now I can kind of fine tune each one to a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they all have different functions. But
Sure.
round wounds, I switch them. I mean, I get Brett to switch out the strings for the Mule thing probably once a tour.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know? Unless
Okay.
we're playing outside, like that Dark Side tour we did out in the summer, I had to switch them out like round wounds like once a week.
Yeah.
It was brutal. Because with Mule, I mostly play rounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where in the summer, like where was that geographically?
God, that was all those amphitheaters everywhere. It was,
So outdoors,
oh my
humid.
God. Dude, it was these
Sweating your butt
5
off.
weeks of only outside amphitheater shows during the summer. In Dallas, it was a heat
And you like to
index.
layer up.
I still wore my vest. I was rocking the tank top with the vest though.
You were.
And I was growing my hair back out then too. But so that was about once a week then.
All right. Is there a band or artist you wish you could sit in for a tour or album that you haven't played with?
Alive, not live, retired, active,
Of all time?
all time.
Well, I kind of like an all-time and a current because we like to manifest here. So, like, there's someone you're got your eyes on that you'd love to sit in with.
I mean, currently, I would definitely lose my shit if I played with Yeba.
Yeba?
Yeah.
Who the fuck is Yeba?
The singer.
No, I'm.
Oh my God.
I'm a moron. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know.
Gotta check her out.
I will.
Check out Yeba.
She is unreal. And
Yeah.
I actually know some people that write for her and stuff, so yeah.
Yeba,
Well,
where
we're
you
gonna
at?
manifest it.
Currently that's who I do, and of all time, that's hard. I mean, a part of me is like, John Coltrane Quartet, like,
Yeah.
I would love to have gone seen them
Mm-hmm.
back in the day.
Yeah.
But probably if I could be a bass player in any of those old bands, it probably would have been Black Sabbath. Like,
I knew you were gonna say it.
I mean, dude.
I was guessing Sabbath or Mahavishnu Orchestra. It was one of those two.
But again, I have so much respect for those older, my whole thing is like our escalated masters, essentially the people that were everything's foundation on. Like, I think it's absurd the idea of me playing with them because I would rather go see them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But of all the amazing rock and roll, from Zeppelin to Free to, there's just so many amazing bands. Like, I would have shit my pants to play one gig with Black Sabbath in their prime.
Yeah.
And,
Nice.
Like subbing in for Geezer.
just one gig
Yeah.
would have been unbelievable.
Yeah. 100%.
Because it's the full circle moment with Black Sabbath was I was in a project with Russell Gunn, and Russell Gunn's one of the all-time greatest jazz trumpet players and composers.
Yeah.
And Russell was the first guy to give me a chance in that scene when I was younger in Atlanta.
Okay.
And he started a band called Electric Butterfly where he took Black Sabbath songs and rearranged them in the style of Miles Davis in the 70s.
Ooh.
And we did a record, and the record has glass, but always people on it, but it's not digital. I'll send you a Dropbox of it.
Oh, please
All
do.
right.
But what I realized, and Russell is, Russell Guns, he's a very profound speaker, and him and like Nicholas Payton and Greg Osby, they're all historians. They all have these amazing perspectives. I've learned a lot from all three of those guys. But Russell said something that was so interesting I never thought of, where he said, basically like Black Sabbath's the greatest white blues band because they did their own thing with it.
Right.
Comparatively speaking, at the time, Zeppelin, their first record was they ripped off a lot of stuff, obviously, from certain artists.
Mm-hmm.
Clapton, Cream.
Right.
But man, Sabbath were these dudes from Birmingham that...
Blues with tritones.
Yep.
And overdriven amps.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, like every amazing, like every early heavy metal band, like the influencers, of what metal is and has become. The drummers, the powerful drummers, the Bonhams, the Ginger Bakers, the Bill Wards, they were all loud jazz drummers.
Yep.
Because they were all
And
influenced
Mitch Mitchell.
Mitch Mitchell. They're all influenced by like Krupa, Gene Krupa.
Elvin Jones.
Yeah, like they were just like loud and like I used to joke, they're loud, shitty jazz drummers. They weren't shitty. They were just loud. Like, because there's that swing and anima that just sort of disappears the later into the 70s you go.
And that's why I love, like Matt Apps, drummer for Gov't Mule.
Yeah.
I mean, he's that.
Yep.
He's the last guy.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude's 72 now.
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing him in 2002 at Bonnaroo.
Matt Apps is incredible. And it's like, he's the only guy I've played with of that generation that is still doing it as hardcore as he is. I mean,
and hitting like that.
Hitting like that and doing all that.
You're going to try to make it out to the last show, like the last Sabbath show in the UK? It's in July, isn't it?
Well, yeah, they just announced the tour, but then I heard he's also like wheelchair bound or something like that.
I've heard that he's. I just read something that are not. I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but it seems like a clusterfuck.
Yeah. I have a friend who's got a really awesome stoner band who's just like, oh, I'm getting a generator and we're going to play in the parking lot. So I would love for that to happen to manifest as well. Yeah, yeah.
Rapid fire. I think 2-3 more for me. Is there a piece of gear that you don't have that you want? Like, what's the next piece of gear you might buy bass wise?
I mean, Dream bass, early Olympic.
Yep. Series 1, Series 2, yep.
Dream.
That's
awesome.
Dream. I didn't get it until 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So I finally played one that I was like, holy shit, I get it.
Yeah.
All right.
Why these are...
Well, if you haven't yet, try to treat yourself for a conversation with the Wickersham family.
Who?
The Wickersham family who owns Alembic. Like, while they're still here, Ron and Susan and Micah, their daughter, most beautiful people on the planet. And
That's amazing.
like, just absolutely brilliant.
Couple of your favorite bass players.
Oh man, there's so many. I mean, obviously Tim LaFave. I think that's probably
Who?
Yeah, I think the one guy that gets mentioned probably every single time on here's Tim. Tim, oh Timmy. I love him. We'll do this like this. We're gonna do current guys,
Sure.
and then we'll list the older cats that were influential. But Tim, I love what Ryan Stasik's doing.
Humphreys.
We got another question related to him coming up here.
Let's see. Evan Sarver, the guy I mentioned earlier, he's such a groove meister. Austin White, and his whole concept is so wild because it's like extended range, more extended range, and like effects. Like he does some shit that's pretty wild. Let's see who else I've been digging. This guy, I don't know his fucking name, but I reposted him. He's playing all this Aphex Twin shit. like verbatim on like a Zon Hyper
okay.
bass. Sorry, we'll have to look him up and put his name under when I say
Yes.
this.
Okay.
That
This
sounds
guy-
awesome.
This guy's blown my mind. Of course, every time I hear Eddie Hess, he's such a monster. His tone and groove is just second to none. Let's see. God, I can't believe I'm leaving out some people that I actually listen to.
You could name 100, right? Like it's.
We all could. It's such an asshole question to
No,
ask.
it's a perfect question.
Well,
That's
you know,
why.
it's not really 100. You know, I think it's like I think there's a bunch of people I like to see on the internet compared to in person. You know.
Yeah.
And obviously, the people I have connections with, I like to hear. But you know, I mean, Mike Bendy.
Yeah.
When Mike posts stuff, I'm always like, "Oh, thank God he hasn't posted in a while. I wonder
Yeah.
what he's doing."
All these players are very unique players too. They all have style. They all
Right.
are authentic in their own right. you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then some of the greats, you know, obviously, like you mentioned, Duck Dunn earlier.
I mean, Anthony Jackson.
Right.
I mean, God, Chuck Rainey. God, that's just a whole other. Paul Jackson, Rocco, Alan Woody, Barry Oakley, Phil Lesh. I mean, it's just
Right.
you know. But I think that you know, I think if I could really pinpoint the 4 guys that I've ripped more shit off from, it's definitely Anthony Jackson, Chuck Rainey, Paul Jackson, and Rocco, and everything else was like sprinkles.
Yeah.
You know?
All right.
I think. I mean, yeah. I'm trying to think, like, you know, now and I'm doing this Anthony Jackson
Tribute.
tribute
concert,
fundraiser for
whatever
him. And I
thing,
was
yeah.
pretty amazed they asked me to do that. I mean, shout out to Chris Giese for being
Love GC. Yeah.
such a, you know.
Who just won the Lifetime Achievement Award?
That's
Is that
right. Bass Magazine
At
Awards.
Bass Magazine
And I
Award?
told this to Chris, like, he is just as influential as the players, really.
Yeah.
Because when we were growing up, he's the one
Writing about it.
writing about him and doing these amazing interviews, you know? It's like,
Right.
I have never met a single person who has anything negative to say about Chris Giese.
nope.
Yeah.
He just, again, another one of those like generous with their time, very thoughtful, asks amazing questions. Like whenever I get on the phone with him, with Chris, the first thing out of his mouth usually is, "How's Jody doing?"
Yep.
He's like,
do you think we could share the little story behind his award and the?
Nah.
All right. Well, maybe
this
we'll
isn't
put it
the
on a
place.
Patreon one
maybe
day.
another time.
I wanna
Or
add
let
two-
him. We'll tell you.
I want to add 2 people to the list I listen to a lot.
Okay.
Logan Kane,
I don't know who that is.
this kid from California,
Mm-hmm.
ripping. And this kid from North Carolina, Matt Laird,
Yeah.
that's just a groove meister. He
Okay.
sounds great. And these young guys, you know.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Monsters.
Very cool. Well, the last question from me, we all know it's coming. Fucking Ryan Stasek. What is your shopping cart etiquette? Do you make sure you always return
Yes.
the shopping cart, no matter what?
No matter fucking what.
Is it? Do you bring it back to the store, or just you put it in a corral?
If I can't find the corral, I put it in front.
Rain, shine, sleet, snow, tornado, hurricane,
Well, I mean,
earthquake.
the elements make the world a difference for sure.
Oh, you
Well,
said always.
it's Team
You said
Laura
always.
Federa over here. Listen, if it's raining, I'm not.
No, now raining's one thing, but if it's like life or death, I'm gonna leave it.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's just good sense.
No, but,
If it's my life, okay.
I mean, dude, I think in Atlanta, it's weird. Like the Kroger I went to a lot, they had so many of the things
Right.
that you didn't think about it. But when I moved to New Orleans, that's when I was like, I made more of an effort because there wasn't a lot. People would leave a cart in the parking space,
Right,
and it's like, dude, just take 3 seconds. You know?
right.
Now, if it's life or death, and it's like, oh man, my wife's giving birth, I gotta leave it. It's like, okay, but like, if you're just being lazy, just return the cart.
You already walked around the store.
Yes.
What's an extra 10 feet? Okay. Well, I think that's it for me. I'm sure Mark's got a few to throw at you.
You mentioned Kroger, which my dad affectionately referred to as K. Roger. What's your favorite shopping, like your favorite grocery store?
Where I'm at now.
Period. Just period.
I mean, I will always have a nostalgia value to growing up around IGA or Piggly Wiggly.
Iga. Oh, Piggly Wiggly too.
Or Bruno's.
I've never been to Bruno's. No.
Never been to a Bruno.
No.
Yeah. But now in today's modern world, I've been in New York for years, and there's Fresh Marts, and having to walk, almost a mile with groceries,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting back to my Publix life.
Yeah, they got that chicken.
Yeah,
that stuff's good. So you've been to a lot of restaurants. You've been to a lot of fast food places. You've been to a lot of gas stations. Who has the best ice, period?
Best ice?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what is it? Racetrack.
What?
Racetrack.
The racetrack. Which one in particular?
That's just the racetrack gas station.
Racetrack. Is it like the Pebble Ice,
Yes.
or is it? That's what's up. I love Pebble Ice so much.
Yeah. Only from there, though.
Only from there.
Only
Yeah,
from
What's special about
At
it?
home, not so much.
So-
Because look, the styrofoam cup with the Pebble Ice and the straw,
Yeah.
it's like it's his own.
Well,
thing.
there's a whole ASMR thing that goes on with that too. Like,
Yeah, I love it.
yeah. So, like, I can't do the styrofoam sound,
I hate it.
but with the
It's
ice,
my kryptonite.
it's like the ice makes it tolerable in a way. I can dig that.
If you got styrofoam and did this around me, you could just. It's like my kryptonite.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, it's terrible. Misophonia is a real thing.
It's dry. I can't do it.
What's your favorite soda pop?
Not a big soda drinker.
Not a big soda drinker.
my
What's your beverage of choice?
My beverage of choice is basically
Every day you post the same Instagram.
coffee. I mean, coffee is my addiction. It's relentless. I mean, I literally had a cold brew and I'm drinking this one, and I'm gonna have more cold brew at the venue when we get there.
Hell yeah.
But soda water, I love soda water and kombucha.
Yeah.
But if I do get a Coke, I mean, I just said it. The occasionally time I want a soda, it's gonna be a Mexican Coke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like the
Sugar
cane sugar.
cane.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Out of a bottle, ice cold.
With the taco.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Or you know what? I would say this: if I'm at a theater, I will get a Coke
Yeah. There's something about. I usually get a cherry Coke when I'm at the theater.
or a cream soda.
Cream soda.
Yeah.
Ooh, who's got the best cream soda?
IBC.
IBC. Interesting. I was expecting maybe a Stewart's in there, but IBC
I love
is great.
Stewart's.
But IBC is pretty sick.
That's nostalgia reasons too.
Yeah.
Growing up around.
Dude, that's all I got, man. Like this has been an awesome
Thank you.
follow-up
You got your
education.
best.
I mean, like it hasn't been very long, but like so much has happened in that
Oh my
time.
God,
Like,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot has happened besides the world shutting down and coming back and moves.
Yeah.
And,
And so if you want people to find you, what's the best way they can find you?
don't find me. No,
Don't find me. Leave me alone.
It's Instagram, the King's Eye at the King's Eye. My website's been under the weather for a while. That'll come up eventually. But
Well, sorry, I have one more question.
yes.
Where does the King's Eye come from?
So throughout even when I was a kid, my nickname was the King in some fashion. Which is, you don't ever nickname yourself anything.
That's right.
Right.
So when I moved to Atlanta, I didn't have a nickname. And then Mark Radabaugh, who's an incredible drummer and my best buddies, started calling me the King. Kind of as a joke, and that stuck. And then when Instagram came around, I was like, what'd be a funny name? The King's Eye. There's no real meaning besides that.
That's it.
Yeah.
The King's Eye.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for shining a light on that. We appreciate
Nope.
that.
No real depth to it. I mean, I know.
Opening our eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Kings thing in Atlanta came from I was so involved with the scene because it was like, I just waved that flag hardcore. I still do. I haven't lived there in years, but I still do. To me, it's absurd, but it stuck. And Mark,
Yeah.
all Mark Radabaugh's fault.
I mean, hell to the king, baby.
Yeah.
That's right. Dude, Thank you. Love you, brother.
Love
Thank you
you
for
too.
having me.
Give me the
Thank you for
fist. Give me
coming.
my hands are sweaty.
Yeah, that's all we got. So, bye.
Peace.